Ladies and gentlemen, I am back in the captain's chair of the Demons from Outer Space. It's still warm from the last 2 times we recorded. Left warm by Dylan McCandless, Super DM64, having previously occupied it. Hello, sir. Welcome back.
Hi, I'll tell you where it's not warm right now. Outside in Tennessee, freak cold chill all of a sudden. Nobody knows why. We went from like 80-something degrees yesterday in stormy weather to today there's like freeze warnings and people are having to throw tarps over their crops. It's crazy shit.
It's probably the thing from the day after tomorrow, the weird, like, freak storm that happened when that fucking iceberg broke off and all of a sudden Earth went, ooh, I'm mad. I think that was the plot of that movie. And that's probably what's going on. It's probably science. It's a scientific fact right now.
Actual dialogue from the day after tomorrow.
I am also experiencing some cold weather. There's some intense wind going on outside, so you might hear that at some point. It'll sound like somebody trying to burst in through the walls, but in reality, it's just the wind. As many different horror movies have said over the years. So, we have a very particular agenda tonight on the Demons from Outer Space. We're going to be continuing in a saga of our very own that we've been doing for quite a while, pretty much since we brought the show back with this new format of having a topic ready to go before we start the episode.
Yeah, imagine that.
Yeah,
our new format, which
brand
is
new, amazing, never would have thought of it before idea.
Otherwise known as the way shows work.
As the way content is typically produced. Well, you know what? Fuck typically.
We used to be very experimental with format in our youth, and now we're like, fuck it, we need to.
Well, we're way too tired to deal with that, to experiment. We like to know what we're doing and just do it.
We opened this podcast with a discussion on the weather. We're clearly over the hill at this point.
Right, and before this, we were talking about politics. It's disgusting. I stopped that conversation flat because I was so desperate to move on to what we are talking about properly tonight. The final time we're going to be talking about a proper, like, arc of this as a TV show, probably. We'll see what the future entails. But, ladies and gentlemen, Dragon Ball Super is over.
It is, for all intents and purposes, and for everything we know at the moment. We're getting a movie later on this year. We'll see how that turns out.
We do have 2 trailers now. I didn't see the second one.
I didn't know there was a second one.
There's one longer one with like slightly more footage. Neither of them reveal fucking anything. If you want any idea of what it's actually about, you have to read Toriyama's pitch.
They're probably still fucking. There was this great excerpt that I watched from one of Dan Harmon's podcasts, and if you don't know about Dan Harmon's podcast thingy called what's it called, like Harmontown or something like that, it's more of like a live performance that he does in places, and then he did this whole bit on this stage because everybody was always asking about Rick and Morty, because this was before season 3 came out, and he did like this whole song on stage, and the basic gist of it was they're drawing it. And I feel like that's where we are with Dragon Ball Super, the movie, at this moment. Everybody's like,
they're drawing it, yeah.
Everybody's like, hey, when are we going to get more footage? They're drawing it.
Right.
Give them some time to fucking draw it.
Right. Everybody's like, I want to know more about the villain. It's like, well, they're probably still figuring it out. Like, they're probably still putting it together. And that might sound like disturbing, like, oh god, but it's like, I mean, this is how Japan makes movies, man. I mean, we used to get a Godzilla. We have been getting a Godzilla movie every year. So I mean,
they're overworked, stressed out Japanese animators.
That's the way they do it, man. And the show reflects that, and the movie will probably reflect that as well. It's not necessarily always a bad thing. There is what's the word I'm trying to select here? You can't recreate the charm of an anime in America. You can recreate the aesthetic, and that's been done to very good effect in various media. But you cannot recreate the aesthetic, like the feel of overworked animators creating this thing and telling this story in this style. And Dragon Ball has its own style of its very own with that, which is the mind of Akira Toriyama, having come up with the actual gist of what we're building to, and that's the other side of the charm.
This is why the anime aesthetic is what it is, with like the skipping and the repeating of frames, because they were like, we have no time or money. How are we going to do this? And they like shat it out in like 48 hours or some shit. Like, it's insane. I would not want to be an animator.
But people love it.
I would not want to be an animator working in Japan, even though if you're going to be an animator, that's pretty much where all the good work is now. So the short version of the story is, don't be an animator.
The short version of the story is, don't do anything. Just watch anime. Huh?
What
a great lesson I'm imparting to the youth of America.
You could go and have a great, relatively stress-free career animating at Disney, but they don't do that anymore. So
no,
it's Japan or bust.
They just ask the computers to do it. They just ask Skynet to make movies for them, and Brad Bird tells Skynet what to do. Supposedly,
I like to imagine there's like a Disney priest, and he wears like the mouse ears and like some sort of weird robe, and he like goes into a room.
He's more of a cult leader.
He goes into a room with a giant supercomputer. There's a bunch of people in Disney costumes worshiping it, like the bomb from Beneath the Planet of the Apes, and he just lays up a script at the bottom of the altar, and he's like, "Oh, great computer, please make this movie." And then like lightning strikes the ground, and there's a movie.
And everybody loves it, and that seems to be how, in some ways, how all things are produced, but on a different scale. In this case, the computer is a bunch of Japanese people, and their sweat and determination. So all right, we've talked about the anime industry at large, but we haven't talked much about Dragon Ball Super on its own. So we have talked about all of the build up to what is known as the Tournament of Power or Universe Survival arc. We talked about all the recruiting and the fact that Majin Buu got all skinny and then he like had a weird narcoleptic fucking episode, and then Goku was like, "Oh, I know, we'll resurrect the dead again," and everybody was like, "Oh God, Goku again with the resurrecting the dead," and Goku was like, "Let's resurrect Frieza," and everybody was like, has he actually, like, is his brain still in there? Like, did it leak out his ears? Is he all right? But hey, they recruited Frieza, so Frieza was one of the 10 warriors that were to represent Universe 7 in the Tournament of Power.
For the record, if you're new to the podcast and you haven't yet clicked off and discussed, we do have reviews of all of the previous arcs.
I should put those in a playlist now that it's done.
Yeah, probably.
So I will do that, and you can listen to them all in succession. So no need to go back to all of that and go, and dig into all the detail again, because we did that already. So go back to that. Although I did go back and rewatch it, just because when I was watching it, I wanted to know what the hell I was looking at. So I did go back to the, Goku hanging out with Android 17 on that island, and Goku and Krillin fighting on that building, which is still awesome. That was such an awesome bit.
Yeah.
When Krillin had that Destructo disc under Goku, and Goku had no fucking idea. Meanwhile, he's like Super Saiyan. Or no, I think he was actually blue at that point, even.
You don't need the Tien episode. You can skip right the fuck over that.
Yeah, that one does not hold up great. The best part about it is Master Roshi's inspiration for his training. And I mean, everything with Roshi, I'm down for. Like, Master Roshi is one of my favorite characters in Dragon Ball. And everything with him is good. Especially in the stuff we're going to talk about tonight. So we're talking about the actual tournament now, D. And in a way, yes. In almost every way, this is what Super's been building to since it started.
Yes. This has been a fucking year of our lives. It's been without a doubt the longest fucking arc in Super, and I bet it rivals some of the longer arcs in Z. I mean, this was a monster.
Yes.
It's been quite something. But yeah, ever since they actually started making original content in Super, instead of recapping movies. They have been building to this
And
with
gradually extending the arcs, because the Universe 6 arc was like maybe 20 episodes max, and then
Goku Black was
Goku Black was like 40 maybe.
and then for the last arc they were like, hey, this is gonna take a year, so strap in.
Yeah. Deservedly so, do you think?
I mean,
I don't think there's anything you can cut out without losing a lot.
I did a video recently where I talked about some of the
Yeah, you talked about this without me, you bitch. But you did it before the last episode came out, so it's fine. I'm joking.
Yeah. It was more of just a retrospective about the series in general. But in that I did a series of sort of pros and cons, and one of the major things I talked about is I do think that this last arc is a little too long. I think it's a little bloated in places. I think there are certain things that they spend way too much time on, and then other things that are set up and then resolved in one episode, and they're super unsatisfying. Uh, So I don't know. There's a lot of weird pacing issues going on.
I mean, I feel like that was from the get-go. It feels like that's going to be an issue because of the way the tournament is set up. Because it was already an unusual idea for Dragon Ball from the onset. It's not a traditional martial arts tournament of one-on-one fights. It's a big battle royale that's going on for 48 minutes. So we knew we were going to get some Planet Namek time stuff, and oh boy.
Those 48 minutes made the 5 minutes on Planet Namek look like fucking reasonable physics. Like it was.
I stopped keeping. Initially I was trying to kind of keep track of like how long each episode was constituting in terms of the 48 minutes, but at a certain point I was like, I'm just gonna take whatever they tell me at the end as like the word of God. I don't even care. It doesn't matter anymore. I'm just kind of I'm just watching it.
Most of the time,
it doesn't really even play a role in the actual like goings on of the minute to minute action.
most of the time, no joke, there would be like a full half hour of fucking all this bullshit with like rebrand and shit. And then at the end, the announcer would basically come on and say, only a minute has passed. And I'd be like, what?
Yeah. A lot of those early fights only constitute like 2 minutes or so. Like when Goku and Vegeta when Goku and Vegeta essentially, two-handedly wipe out Universe 9, it takes like less than 5 minutes.
Yeah.
But that's fun. That's kind of part of the charm of something like that. And also part of the point of the arc of, we're having a blast with this concept of this big multi-universal tournament, but we're all fucking wiping these universes out of existence.
I think we all knew that some of these universes were going to be pushovers. There was no way that all of them could be fucking great opponents. For no other reason than that would get boring after a while. So there's like a mix of universes that fucking suck and universes like Universe 11 that give them a lot of trouble.
Mm-hmm. Well, some of them are mixed too, where they have some nothing characters, but some of them are rather capable. Like Universe 9 is like that. Like, the Trio de Dangers, they're not like, Jiren, but they're pretty interesting and they're fun, and they definitely gave Gohan and Goku and Vegeta trouble. So they're not total pushovers. Although you could argue it was largely just because of the actual context of the tournament. Had Bergamo shown up on Earth and been like, I'm going to destroy the planet, Goku probably could have wiped him out with one Kamehameha had he been motivated. But he wouldn't have done that. That's not Goku style.
Depends. If this was happening in a movie, he might.
No, it would. I mean, okay, if he's on a camping trip, yeah, sure, he would wipe him out with one Kamehameha.
Sometimes in those movies, Goku goes like full like gangster Optimus Prime from the Michael Bay film.
Do you remember when he just murdered all of Lord Slug's fucking homies? Like nobody questions it. He just breaks all their necks, and it's like, fuck, this is so brutal. Because when Piccolo does it, you're like, it's Piccolo, so yeah. But Goku,
he's like kind of half evil anyway.
Goku, especially at that point, and we're dealing with an evil Namekian in that movie too. But like Goku in the anime, like Chi-Chi's all like, Goku's never killed anybody, and I'm like, well, he's tried, like not for lack of trying, my dear. Like especially when you get to like fucking like Cell later on, he technically had a hand in that.
How about when he fucking rips a hole through that fucking like proto boo in World's Strongest? Like Jesus.
Oh, right on. Well, yeah, like that's another movie. I was trying to think of something from the anime, but yeah, word.
Oh yeah, I think he's a little bit more consistent in the anime, but some of the movies
he brutalizes the Ginyu Force. He doesn't kill them. Vegeta does that, but he still does like fuck them up.
He does beat the ever-loving shit out of them, yes.
Right, but he still doesn't kill them though.
Well, there seemed to be an idea back then that as he unlocked more power, some of his like Saiyan like blood would come through some more, and so sometimes he would just fucking like go ham on some people in a way that we weren't used to seeing.
Like when you're watching the Namek stuff, you're
especially
reasonably convinced he's gonna try to kill Frieza. Like when he doesn't, that's supposed to be a big fucking reveal because you're like, you stupid fuck, what's wrong with you? Because the whole time you're like, the second he gets a chance, he's just gonna slice this dude's head off. But no, that's not how it plays out. But which is why that was ultimately really, really satisfying and really interesting. And ultimately, I feel like this was kind of a mix of it was a little mix of some of the best elements of like the Frieza and the Cell saga, and some of the problems of the Buu saga, the Tournament of Power I'm talking about now. Because I agree with you that at the end of the day, we definitely ran into the issue that we kind of ran into at the end of Goku Black as well. It just gets so convoluted to the point where it's like, all right, guys, just end it already. I don't think it's I don't think it's nearly as bad as Black, at least not to me. You might feel differently. I was having a good time pretty much all the way throughout, even if I didn't find every fight really all that interesting. But I was just satisfied with the general kind of the tournament itself. I just thought was really interesting.
See, and they kind of shot themselves in the foot too by dragging it out as long as they did, because then when the show suddenly got the axe and they only had so many episodes left to work with, they had to sort of rush to the finale, and you could see some of those effects, unfortunately. Whereas perhaps if they had paced it a bit more naturally from the start, they could have, developed everything out in a more satisfying manner. I feel.
And I mean, at the beginning of the arc, I don't feel like there was any real like rushed problems like that. Like they felt like they were really taking their time to develop the concept.
No,
I feel like that's why we were so excited.
It's when we were in like the middle of the arc, fucking like August and October of last year or whenever the fuck it was, where it was just week after week of fucking. I mean, the Rebriand shit really killed it for me. I'm not gonna lie. A lot of people had that with Kale and Caulifla. A lot of people really fucking hate them. I didn't have that so much with them. There were a few like little writing things.
Those two characters were the ones that I thought ate up too much time. But Universe 2 in general was definitely the one that took up too much time.
Yeah, like they didn't bother me so much. There were some decisions that were made in the writing as far as like how easy it was for them to acquire new Super Saiyan forms and how like fucking weird that was. Like there was some things about that didn't quite add up.
That needs to be explained somehow in regards to Universe 6 Saiyans being different from Universe 7 Saiyans, because it's very strange.
And that's all they had to say, and I would have been fine with it. One little throwaway line.
Right. Well, I feel like they'll have to do that in the future. Like Vegeta will inevitably have to go to planet Sadala and be like, what is this?
Yeah. Well, you say that, but there's plenty of shit that they should have explained a long time ago that they never did. So, who knows?
I mean, it's Dragon Ball. This is ultimately what we're here for, to discuss the things that don't make sense and try to make them make sense, even if they don't make sense. That's why we're here.
So there were little things about like that I didn't like about them, but the whole thing with Rebriand and Universe 2 and just week after week after week of that shit.
They
I was so
overplayed that whole joke. They were amusing in the first episode. But then I was
yeah.
like, oh, they're going to keep going? Because they give them an episode. And I was like, that would have been fine. But yeah,
I know
they definitely
Toriyama.
keep going.
I know Toriyama loves to lampoon superheroes. That was like the whole reason he created Great Saiyaman back in the day. But how many of the characters in the Tournament of Power were just different versions of that idea? There were people running around who had like Ultraman slash Kamen Rider powers, and then there was the fucking Universe 2 girls with like the fucking Sailor Moon shit going on.
I had no problem with that conceptually.
The entire Pride Trooper idea is very sort of, not quite Power Rangers-y, but kinda in a weird way, but just generally sort of like superhero-y. And I'm like, one or two universes doing this whole like superhero aesthetic makes sense, but there seem to be a lot.
Right. Well, I mean, it's that one, and then it's the Sailor Moon fucking universe. It's just the two, right? What's the other?
Well, do you remember? Do you remember the one I was talking about? He was running around and he had
police
like
guy. Yeah, he was from
he had, like-
Universe 4. He was one of the he was part of the robot universe. Yeah, so aesthetically, that character is definitely supposed to be kind of a play on a superhero type of character. But like I said, I had no problem with any of that conceptually. What I did definitely have a problem with is everything's just a different animal, And at a certain point, I was getting confused with who was who, and like some of it was really fun. Like I liked the blind fox who could only detect where his adversaries were via smell. He fought Krillin in 18. That was a great bit. But there were a bunch of other like there was the God of Destruction who was a fox, and I was like, they look way too similar. In the same way,
wasn't the blind fox like green?
And that was another. Everybody from Universe 4 was green. And that was another like weird design thing I didn't like. Since we're talking about things we did like.
Why is there so much chlorophyll in the
Why
universe?
is there so much uniformity in the other universes? Sure, Universe 7 picks most of their warriors from one planet, but they're all like distinctly different. Like they all have very different personalities, and you take Frieza and like Krillin, they're not even remotely the same. Or even if you take like Master Roshi and Piccolo, very different. But then you look at any of the other, Universe 6 closer to 7. The point I was making was that I did think that some of the universes were just like too uniform, because like the ones we were more familiar with have clear diversity because they spent more time developing them initially, like 6, and even like I would even say like a 9 or 11. That was a weird way to combine them. I apologize for that, but like I said, 4 was the one that stuck out to me as too uniform. Not even in terms of the robot thing. That was fine and it made sense and I enjoyed that. It was the color thing. They didn't all have to be green.
That's true.
That was bizarre. And 2, they were pink. There was something pink on all of them. And I just didn't think that was necessary. Unless it was unless they did it like the Pride Troopers where they all had like an outfit, like they made it make sense there that we could tell they were all part of that universe.
Right.
Although it might have been fun. I don't know. I feel like it might have been fun had Universe 11 had one that had like didn't have that outfit. That's how we would have known that was distinct. But it probably wouldn't have made sense. But
also,
my point being that there were definitely I didn't love every universe or every fighter, but overall there was no, like I didn't even really like hate Rebrian. I just hated that we spent so much time on those concepts when there was so much other stuff to look at. Like there was so much other stuff going on, and then there were definitely other characters that I feel were shafted.
Rebrian was definitely my new least favorite Dragon Ball character, and it's only because we spent so much fucking time with her when I just wanted to get on to the Kales and the Jirens,
Well, I think Toriyama and even just the episodic writers are trying to make some kind of bizarre point with her of like, look at how bizarre it is that, like, because, your Sailor Moon characters and other anime characters like that, where their power and laser attacks isn't based on, like, physical strength, it's based on emotion. And, like, they're trying to play with that in the Dragon Ball context. It's fun, but it just definitely goes on for way too long to the point where there needs to be something different about it, or we just need to move on to the next thing,
It was fun for maybe 2 or 3 episodes, and then it was like, all right.
Well, we saw her fight Goku and Vegeta at separate times. And, like, even if she didn't get knocked off right away, because they were trying to have her be, like, one of the strangely resilient ones. Like, she's almost like how the other, like, the way we view her is how the gods view Goku. That I think that was the intention. So we're like, oh my god, is she still fucking in? Like, this is madness. But
right. Well, I don't think that would have been a problem.
At the same time, I was like, here was why it's bugging me more now that I'm thinking about it. Because my overall biggest issue, I think, with the whole arc was that I thought Vegeta got the shaft on the whole. I don't think he got to do... He got cool moments. Not saying that he didn't get cool moments. He definitely did. But he got cool shit to do. But
especially when he got eliminated, that was pretty fucking... Of course,
they all got eliminated in style, I think, in Universe 7. There was nobody where I was like, oh, that was a pisser. Unless it was intentional. I mean, Krillin got kind of fucked, but given who did that, that was fine. That was somewhat satisfying. Frost knocking him off, and when he was caught off guard, that was pretty like, oh, we're playing with some old school moments there. But Vegeta doesn't get any big moment, like, he doesn't get any big, like, thing to do, I don't think. He gets a new transformation. Great. Essentially, it's just a power-up of an old transformation, though.
Yeah.
And he doesn't do any... He does something with it. I'm not gonna... That's inaccurate. But it didn't stand out enough for me. I felt kind of like, okay, he did a big flashy thing, and sacrificed and sacrificed himself like he always does, and then Goku will do the real thing.
It's interesting because
I needed something else, because early on in Super, Toriyama was like, I didn't like Vegeta when I was writing Z. He was kind of a leftover of the early stuff that I kept around because he was popular, and now I'm growing to like him and growing to do stuff with him, and I thought that we were eventually going to get like a big, like, Vegeta saves the day moment. And we've gotten, like, little, like, hints at it, but we've never gotten a full salute to that. And I was kind of expecting I didn't need him to win the tournament, although maybe that would have been just as interesting as what we did get, although what we did get, I think, is probably more interesting, given how it actually played out. But at the same time, there was nothing where I was like, do you remember when Vegeta did that? Like, there was nothing for that. I can name, like, 5 things off the top of my head that Goku, Android 17, Frieza, even, like, Kale and Kefla in particular, like, with, like, things, and Hit, oh my god. Everything Hit does is, like, everybody stop, Hit is fighting.
Yeah. Oh, that episode where he was fighting Jiren and wound up getting eliminated, that was a fucking...
Jesus, that's a really big standout.
That's a fucking great episode.
And then when you compare, but you're definitely right. When you compare the length of that to the length of, like, the fight between Goku and Ribrianne, it's kind of crazy. It's about the same length.
When you compare anything to the fight between Goku and Ribrianne...
And then the follow-up fight between Vegeta and Ribrianne...
I was like, is this how people who didn't like the Namek stuff felt when they were watching week after week of Goku fighting Frieza? Because I think I get it now.
Yeah, without a doubt. I think that the way this arc was set up was without a doubt gonna... I mean, people didn't like Super from the onset. I mean, there were a bunch of old school Z fans who were like, not for me. A lot of them have come back, I think, when they introduced Ultra Instinct.
Quite a few of the meager comments on that Super video I did are basically just about to Super sucks. I'm like, all right.
Yeah, which is ultimately like Dragon Ball will always be around no matter what the hell you think, and we will all have different opinions. I will probably watch it and enjoy it enough to keep watching. That's usually how it goes. But with this one in particular, but with Super in particular, I definitely feel like it's more than that for me.
At least there are good reasons why people don't like Super. I understand fully why a lot of people don't like Super, in all honesty, because there are some major flaws, and they're either flaws that you can live with or you can't. It's not like the fucking Star Wars Episode 8, debacle where people were like, "This movie has ideas. I don't like it."
No, there's legitimate issues with the production and with the execution that turning people off makes sense to me. But it just doesn't turn me off, so.
It's interesting that you talked about Vegeta kind of getting the shaft, because I thought he got some pretty good shots in there. He got to take out Topo. That was a big fucking deal.
Well, what they did with Topo was the real moment, though. It wasn't what Vegeta did. It was the fact that Topo became a god of destruction. What was cool about it, conceptually, I don't think they did enough with it, was that Vegeta got to have his real fight with Beerus, kind of. He got to have his Goku versus Beerus in Battle of Gods kind of fight, which was fun, but I just don't think they played with the ideas
albeit a younger, less experienced god of destruction.
Right, but his raw power, I thought it was but he was letting out more raw power than Beerus was in that fight with Goku, without a doubt.
Well, yeah, because Beerus was holding back and using percentages, and Topo was just like, "Fuck you." What was really interesting about that for me was the complete 180 that Topo's character took over the course of the arc, and we kind of saw him go back to his original characterization after he got eliminated. But back when we first met Topo in the Zen exhibition match, he was the most die-hard believer in the concept of justice, and he was the most sort of goody two shoes out of the Pride Troopers. Jiren always had ulterior motives and was sort of in it for himself, you could tell, but Topo really believed in the cause. Right. And then at a certain point right there at the end, Topo just says fuck it and becomes a god of fucking destruction.
Well, because he decides justice is meaningless and it's now about survival. I like it's kind of gradual, though. It isn't just when he becomes the god of destruction. It's not like in that moment he just abandons it completely. It's gradual. At a certain point with Dispo, the rabbit who looks like Beerus and Champa, which they never explain.
That's my weird design choice that I never understood.
I was gonna bring that one up too. That was because they bring it up and then they didn't do anything with it. So I think it was Vados was the bunny that looks like Champa and Beerus.
I feel like the only reason they brought it up was that the internet had already brought it up, and they felt like they needed to address it. I don't think they really even thought about it.
No, I don't think so either.
Which is weird, because I thought for sure he was going to be a member of the same species. I thought maybe we were going to learn that Beerus and Champa were originally from Universe 11, and that was going to be a reveal.
Which would have been really cool. Yeah. It would have gone a long way to explaining their strength relative to the other occupants of Universes 6 and 7.
But then we find out, he's a bunny. He just is the same color as them and also has big ears because he's a bunny and they're Sphinx cats. Okay.
Right. You can tell it's not intentional because in the broad strokes you're like, oh no, they are kind of different. It's just in the face and the eyes and the general idea of the color. They are slightly different shades.
Yeah. What I was going to say before, though, it's interesting that you brought up Vegeta kind of getting the shaft in your opinion, because you know who I felt that with.
Who?
And this is a story as old as Dragon Ball. Was fucking Gohan, man, because they built him up. They built him up like Gohan was finally going to get some big moves here, and he didn't really. I mean, he had some cool moments. It's the same thing with Vegeta.
Yeah, you're definitely right. You're definitely right.
The coolest thing they did with Gohan was that he eliminated that one universe, and he was the first character that we ever saw deal with the fact that holy shit, I just caused an entire universe to get erased. Yeah,
he sees that picture disappear, and Piccolo's like, Gohan, let's go, and Gohan's like, hi, and they just walk off. That's a great moment.
That's an amazing moment.
That moment with him and Frieza where they pretend to fight so that way they can fuck Frost over. That's great.
But they built him up because they made him the leader of the team, and he was they've been building him up for a long time, ever since Resurrection F when he got
Right.
wrecked. When he got wrecked, and then after that he was like
And
Piccolo.
caused Piccolo to die for no fucking reason. Why,
He was like,
Toriel?
Piccolo,
Why did you decide to have Piccolo die in that moment? Such a stupid fucking decision. Ugh.
and then well, if it was Toriyama, and then he was like, "Oh, Piccolo, I need you to train me again because I got wrecked." And then it was like, "Oh, we're gonna get badass Gohan again at some point." And then when the images for this arc came out, we're like, "Oh, he looks like fucking Boo Saga Ultimate Gohan. We're getting it, and he's coming back in his full glory." Not really. Like I said, some cool moments, some interesting things, but it felt like they were building up something big with him.
He didn't get a big event. No.
It never quite came to pass.
Mm-mm.
Now, I'll tell you who I was hoping would get some really cool shit, who actually did, thankfully, oh my god, was Android 17.
I was going to say 17 is probably the... So for me...
I've been saying for a long time that Android 17 was the MVP of this tournament, and holy shit, was I right.
For me, it was him and Master Roshi. Those were the two that I was really excited about being... I mean, and Frieza, of course, I was excited about being included. But that was kind of a given, given that was also really late in the game.
Well, at the time, though, I didn't know how to feel about the Frieza announcement, because they were pulling the same shit that they did in the Universe 6 tournament, where they promised us Boo and then we didn't get Boo. And then they also did the shit.
They did that with fucking this tournament too. And
yeah.
they really teased us too, because they gave us a really awesome fight with Boo in the Zen exhibition match, and then against Goku in the recruiting mini arc.
They went so far as to make two different versions of the intro animation, one with Boo and one with Frieza, and the one with Boo played up until the point where we realized he wouldn't be in the tournament. Then they switched it to the Frieza animation. Yes. Like they dicked with us hard.
Right.
And then it was a matter of them doing that shit again, and then also doing the fucking bringing back Frieza shit again. So at the time I was like, I don't know, they better do something cool with this.
Which they did.
And they did.
Ultimately, because when I went back and watched but you go back and watch those episodes that where Frieza comes back, it's riveting fucking television. Like even now going back to it, like knowing how everything goes down, and that Frieza isn't like the main fucking event of the whole tournament.
Yeah, those episodes I think are better than the Resurrection F stuff. Not from the movie, but when
the actual super arc. Oh yeah, fucking big time, of course.
Yeah.
Although having just rewatched that stuff dubbed, I liked it a lot more, but it's still not that great.
What in the dub? Yeah. I bet it looked a lot better too, because they get to use the fucking cleaned up Blu-ray animation.
Oh, big time! But it's also the writing's better because we're not reading the weird, sometimes wrong subtitles on the International Space Satellite in space.
Yeah, and one thing I was impressed with the little bit of the super dub that I have watched so far, before I was like, fuck this, I'll wait for the 6 stuff. They're a lot smarter these days than they were back in the day of like adapting the screenplay into English, because like they still have to change things, but it's a lot more sort of true, to the original.
They're trying to make it a kid's show now.
Right.
Like they're making it Dragon Ball Super. It is what it is. It's for people who have been watching this for 20 years.
There's no talk of sending people to the next dimension, and it's on.
They make reference to it being referred to it as that, which I think is fun a few times.
There's I mean, it's also airing on Adult Swim during their Toonami block, so it's not like they really have any censorship issues either. So
right, it's on Adult Swim. I mean.
Although from what I understand, they did have to do like multiple versions of the dub for like different markets. But
it will be weird, like, to say, because I mean, but we don't have like massive FYEs anymore. We're not going to sell Dragon Ball there's no Toys R Us's anymore. Like, we don't have physical stores for children anymore. So we're not going to sell Dragon Ball in that context. So
I actually have seen some Dragon Ball Super toys floating around.
No, I'm not talking about toys. I'm talking about the DVDs.
Oh.
Like, they're not going to sell Dragon Ball Super DVDs in Toys R Us, because there are no Toys R Us's.
It's so fucking weird that I can go to Walmart right now and buy fucking the first season of Dragon Ball Super. broken up
I
into
should
like
do that at some point.
like weird Blu-ray bricks, but still.
Maybe I should wait though. I kind of want a nice like tin. That would be my ideal situation.
Now that it's over, and I have like a definite idea of how many boxes there will be, that helps, you know.
But you also don't know how long it's going to take for them to get there.
Right, yeah.
They haven't taken many breaks in releasing the dub so far. They just released episode 57 last weekend. I'm caught up. But you never know.
I probably should.
Remember what they did with Samurai Jack. So
I should probably catch up on the dub now since the sub is over.
I mean, they're on the black stuff, so it's really good.
Yeah, what do you mean? Remember what they did with Samurai Jack? Oh, you talking about like the
that
bullshit
one week
on
where they played
Fool's.
Rick and Morty for like 5 hours,
Oh,
and they didn't play Samurai Jack nor Dragon Ball Super that night.
Oh God, you know that was before I became a Rick and Morty fan, so I was livid.
Yeah, I remember.
I didn't even get mad when the Rick and Morty fans freaked out over their Szechuan sauce. I was like, this is how I felt. I understand.
But regardless, so yeah, Frieza. We can talk about more of that when we get into kind of the end game, because you know he mostly waits until he gets his big moments at the end. And he does some cool stuff in the beginning too. But like I said, mostly at the end. Like when he picks out that back guy, he's like, "You are now my plaything," and he just fucking like blasts him until he throws himself off the stage. Like that's why Frieza was a nice inclusion, because of stuff like that. Because Frieza is basically what Vegeta would have been like had we grabbed him right after like Namek and thrown him into this kind of situation. You know, now we're dealing with now we're dealing with responsible dad Vegeta. There's none of that. You know, Vegeta's going around like talking about honor and resurrecting other universes with the Super Dragon Balls, like Frieza, and I describe it as that way to everybody who I talk about the show to. Frieza is what Vegeta used to be now, and that's crazy.
Yes. Yeah, it's also a welcome thing to see, because as much as
I've grown to really like Frieza being around, which is weird.
As much as I like, you know, the direction that they've taken Vegeta's character, and you know, the number one thing I listed on that pro list in that video I made was how well they've handled sort of Vegeta's continual character growth.
It's not like there's nothing I'm not saying they should have kept him as like the rogue that he was at the beginning of the Buu saga. No, his progression is perfect.
Having said all that, I miss fucking, you know, Android Saga fucking Vegeta when he fucking killed especially when he kills like Android 19. Jesus.
Right on. Like when he first became Super Saiyan, you mean? Like that like really like disgustingly arrogant like Vegeta, who would talk about blowing up the Earth because he could, but wouldn't because he was, you know, banging Bulma. So,
can you androids feel fear, or whatever the fucking line was? I was like, fuck
and he still talks like that, but it's with this air of like, I'm not gonna really do anything that bad to you. You know, it's this air of like, if my wife finds out, she probably won't fuck me anymore, and that's not gonna be good for me.
You know, this is not, this Vegeta would never have beaten the shit out of prepubescent Gohan shortly after arriving on Earth after his fucking dad died.
No.
You remember that? You remember when they got back?
I remember. I watched Dragon Ball Z Uncut when I was young.
Oh, I know that's a fucking anime change. It's not in the manga, but I love that episode.
Dragon Ball Z Uncut.
Just fucking, he just gets beat the shit out of this kid, and I'm like, this is great.
Well, I remember when I played Budokai. I can't remember if it was Budokai 1 or 2. Maybe it was even 3. But you know, you get tutorials at the beginning of each saga for some of the new abilities, and one of the tutorials was Gohan and Vegeta was training you, and I just remember how different that felt. Like, you know, like literally an hour ago I was fighting Vegeta as a bad guy, and now he's like training me.
Yeah, that's the weird thing when you play through Dragon Ball in like video game form. It's like half the time you beat bosses, they become part of your
Then
squad.
the next time, yeah, exactly. Well, it's funny. It's funny you bring that up now that I'm playing Fighter Z, because the first arc is you play as all the good guys. The second arc is you play as all the bad guys. It's pretty fun. Like you start off as Frieza, obviously, and then you kind of build out. We're going to like Cell and Kid Buu, and I don't know if they're gonna do like Black or anybody like that. I don't think they're gonna do Black because I just think that would be too much for what the story is. The story's actually really good. I was really surprised, like fucking really surprised by how good the story is.
Yeah.
Like it's actually like watchable.
I mean, that's like the best thing that the recent Dragon Ball games have had going for them, like Xenoverse and shit. I fucking hate the fucking gameplay in Xenoverse. Like the control mechanics are fucking bullshit as far as I'm concerned. But like it's got a really interesting like premise and story, and you can create your own character, which is something I always wanted in a Dragon Ball game. So it's like it's a weird mixture of God, I wish this played better, but man, isn't this a cool idea?
Mm-hmm. I'm glad I waited on PS4 era Dragon Ball games for this because it's pretty much like exactly what I've always wanted. It's Budokai style fighting, but it looks exactly like the show, and the story's really good. And you can pretty much do anything from the onset. Like you can either play online or offline. I know this is turning into a review of that, but whatever. We'll get back to the Tournament of Power. And you can also like you can just go in the middle of the kind of lobby and wait for somebody else to go there, and then you can just fight them. And
Yeah.
it's really good. Anyway, so
I'm just glad we're not doing playthroughs of the anime in video game form anymore, like on the reg.
no, and I would almost be okay with that if they released it as DLC. Like I would probably still play it.
Yeah, I mean, Xenoverse is kind of a twist on that because you have bad guys traveling through time and like fucking with shit. So like you'll go back to like the Saiyan saga, but then all of a sudden, Broly or some shit will fucking appear. Like that's not an actual example as far as I know. I'm just saying like that's
Fucking
the kind of
Broly versus Nappa. It's like I wonder who's gonna win.
like I don't know if that actually happened. I'm just saying that's the kind of bullshit that goes down. So it twists your expectations on its head, especially the first time you play the game because you think, oh, I'm traveling back to the Saiyan saga. I wonder what's gonna happen. Holy shit, what the fuck's happening?
Mm-hmm. So I'd like to talk about. So I definitely agree with you in terms of Android 17 being a big standout, but Master Roshi for me was one that like when he was on the marquee at the beginning, I was like, "Are you fucking kidding me? He's gonna be in the tournament? Like that's so fucking cool." Because Master Roshi hasn't done a fucking thing since Dragon Ball. Okay. Resurrection F, yes. Okay, my bad. But that was such a tease in terms of like, I hope this is a tease for him. Like improving in the future and doing more and being more of and taking more of an active role, and it was.
It's weird because I'm so used to Z being the end.
Yeah.
And not talking about
it technically still kind of is.
And not talking about GT. Like I'm used to what happened in Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z being the entirety of the story, and so even though we've had the new movies and Super for like however many fucking years it's been at this point, I'm still conditioned to be like, oh, Master Roshi hasn't done anything, or oh, fucking Frieza's dead. Like I still can't.
Remember when Frieza was a thing 20 years ago? It's like, no, Frieza's a thing now.
Yeah, I'm constantly having to remind myself about shit like that because I just spent years fucking beating the original story of the manga into my head by playing through it in video games.
Video games, exactly. That's what I tell everybody. It is like we didn't follow the story of Dragon Ball via the show because we didn't get to see all of it until like we acquired it later in life. We played the video games and then caught the episodes that we could.
I did. I had both. I watched the show growing up as it was airing, and then after it was over, all I had was the games for years and years. Well, I had the manga too, and I've read through the manga.
I got into it later in its run, so I just didn't get the chance. I caught what I could.
I also have the manga, and I've read through that several times, so that's a slightly different version of things. But yeah. Anyway.
But the reason why you want to see Master Roshi do stuff is because he was the first guy who trained Goku, And now Goku has gone so much further beyond anything we could have imagined back then.
Yeah,
You would expect
Master
Master Roshi to go, I can probably learn more, like, because he's taken the immortality elixir and he fucking eats the dankest looking weed I've ever seen in that 2-parter, or is it a 3-parter? Where Krillin and Goku go into that cave. I can't remember, but I think it's 3. Yeah, I love all that, especially when fucking Master Roshi just starts inhaling that shit. It's so good. And it's literally just nugs of weed. It's literally just nugs of weed. It's great.
I like how excited you are about the weed.
You've no idea. It was rainbow colored. It was amazing. But from that point on, I was like, I think we're definitely gonna get some Master Roshi action, and fuck was it satisfying. I mean, he took out 4 or 5 people.
Can you imagine if they had gone through all that trouble and brought him that magical herb, and they were like, "All right, Master Roshi, what's this for? Is this like part of your immortality elixir or what?" And he's like, "No, do you have any idea how much this is worth on the street?"
Yeah, he's just gonna sell it for like fucking seed money. That's how Master Roshi works. No, training with Puar to overcome his one weakness. That was fun. I thought it was creepy, but in a way that, like, it felt like we had to get over that. You know, like, it felt like we had to deal with that in a realistic way, and I feel like we kind of did.
It harkened back to classic Dragon Ball, and I loved that.
There was a lot of that. I thought that was, like, kind of brilliant to continually kind of go, we're so far beyond that now. But hey, remember the lightning attack? Remember the Mafuba?
Yeah.
Remember After Image? I think that's really great. Remember cloning yourself, like splitting yourself up into 4 clones and running around, like that was all really good stuff.
Yeah, I remember. Ten Shinhan had like the fucking coolest, weirdest power set in the original Dragon Ball. There's a moment when he's fighting Goku in the tournament where he like sprouts extra arms. It's wild.
He does all of it in this too, but it's over the course of 2 episodes, and that's why he kind of feels like a nothing addition to the team. I was disappointed with his role as well. He did like same thing with Vegeta and Gohan. He did cool stuff, but he didn't have a moment. Oh no, he did. I'm sorry, he did have a moment. Like when he dragged fucking that sniper off the fucking
that
stage.
Was cool.
Yeah, I mean that's a moment to remember.
Yeah, he did get he got a good elimination. That was pretty sweet.
That was also when he went down. Like and they all got, well, like I said, when they all went down, it was like a good moment, like a oh fuck moment,
Yeah.
So it's not like that was particularly impressive. It was just
especially
the
since
details.
Especially since, and let's be honest, Universe 7 kind of owned this tournament for the vast majority for the vast majority of its duration. They didn't start having trouble until they got to the fucking Pride Troopers near the end. The majority
it wasn't until Goku actually fought Jiren that anybody was like, "Oh fuck."
The majority of the tournament was just like, "Oh, Universe 7 still has 90% of their team, and we're all whittled down to 30." Like that was so much of this arc was like that. I felt like maybe we should have gotten, maybe they should have spread out the Universe 7 eliminations in a more realistic way to kind of keep the stakes high, I don't know. I felt like maybe
they were trying to play it safe.
I think maybe Universe 7 performed perhaps too well over the course. I feel like they should have struggled a bit more,
Mm-hmm.
Kept it nice and
I mean, they did. I mean, listen, Master Roshi almost died, bro. So don't be taking nothing away from my boy.
Well, he's an old man.
Damn right, son. Damn right.
It's easy to forget that Master Roshi is a fucking badass who can turn into the Hulk at a moment's notice.
And he does it a lot, and it's always really satisfying.
I
because
loved when he did that and then like started perving on that girl and she like eliminated herself. That was fucking.
yeah, that was really funny. Um,
Uh,
there was also when he was like done, he still did it to try and do the Mafuba against Frost, and I was like, oh man, this guy is like the shit. And the fact that we got to see Master Roshi, and I wish could have been longer, but he was really done at that point too. When he was fighting, like the fact that we got to see Master Roshi fight like a Frieza level guy, that's awesome shit.
yeah. Well, I forget which universe it was, but there was this one universe that he almost took completely out single-handedly. Like he took out like just a bunch of them back
Yeah,
to
well,
back.
they were all the female ones, like all the mystical weird ones.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
he said,
'Cause
man,
that,
he's like, I will take all of the female warriors, and Tien was like, "Are you sure, bro?" And he was like, "Yes, my training will have paid off," and it did. He did really well.
he fucking beat those women.
And you know what else? I feel like, yeah, great. You know what else? I feel like he really brought Goku's like he really grounded Goku for me because Goku spent a lot of this tournament like pulling out every fucking power he's ever developed over the 20 years we've been watching him in action. And when Master Roshi is in trouble, he's still like, oh, fuck all this, I'm helping Master Roshi.
Yeah.
Twice. He does it twice. And both times, he and Krillin are like, fuck this tournament erasing bullshit. Master Roshi needs my help. And that really like hit me in my core. Like I grew up on Dragon Ball. Like I grew up on the chilling out at Kame House. Like Master Roshi's always there. The thought that Master Roshi could have died, I was, and if they had killed him, I mean, it would have been a satisfying conclusion. Although we
Right.
knew that he couldn't have died because of, we see him again in Z later, at the end.
Well, he could have. They could have. They would have just brought him back.
Yeah, no, obviously, but he could have definitely died there
I
for
mean,
real.
Master Roshi has died before, right? Didn't he die during the Piccolo
Technically,
saga?
I mean, technically, he was destroyed like with everybody else when Boo blew up Earth.
Well, yeah, sure, but I mean, didn't he actually like die in during the Piccolo stuff back in Dragon?
Die. Sorry.
Because he didn't he like do the Mafaba or something and die? I haven't revisited that part of
God,
the
me neither. I don't remember that at all. I don't remember him dying.
in a very long time. I haven't gone back to. I know
How would he
Krillin
have been
died,
resurrected?
and I want to say Tien died. I'm not sure.
How would they have been resurrected? Because
do you mean?
Krillin was resurrected with the Dragon Balls,
Right,
and that's why that was a problem later when he died again.
right. Master Roshi could have also been revived with Dragon Balls.
Yeah, but the Dragon Balls could only bring back one person at a time. This was early days, my friend. I don't think he died. I don't remember. I feel like
maybe they had to.
I feel like even though I don't remember much about that initial Piccolo stuff, I would have remembered him dying.
Maybe they had to wait a year in between resurrecting. But I don't know.
Me neither. And you know what? That means we should move on to something else. Overall, though, for me, Roshi was the one that I was the most excited about. Not of all the characters, but he was the one that I was excited about, and I was fully satisfied with everything they did with him. And I think that, like, whoever got to write those episodes was like me and, like, thrilled that they got to include him in this,
Yeah, Master Roshi did die during the Piccolo saga
There you
back
go.
in the day.
Okay. How was he? He was brought back with the Dragon Balls.
I would assume so. I mean,
You know, maybe he was Frankensteined back together.
Maybe.
Using various turtle shells and sunglasses. When he says, always, remember the Kame style, eat well, rest well, play well, fight well. I was like, oh man, I'm gonna cry. Master Roshi. I loved it, man. So let's talk about Android 17, the other real, character who at the beginning of this we were like, oh, they're doing him? Fucking great. Haven't seen him since they ruined him in GT.
yeah.
A series of moments of that. I haven't seen that character since they ruined them in GT. We'll see what happens with Oob. That's the next big one we're gonna have to wait for. Because they've been teasing us with that like a fucking girl on fucking on fucking Tinder. with like, oh, there's a kid out there who's Majin Buu resurrected, and Goku's like, I know, he's still a kid though. Give me some fucking time. Chi-Chi wants me to farm radishes.
Oh wait, I think okay. So I had forgotten about that. Sorry, I was just doing some reading about the time Master Roshi died. I had forgotten Goku had to go and actually bring Shinron back to life because King Piccolo had killed Shinron. He had to go to Kami's lookout. That was the first time he ever met Kami, and they had to revive Shinron. And I think maybe that's when they changed it to where he could revive more than one person, I would guess. I don't know. I have to reread that part of the manga because it's been a while. But I do remember that now. Yeah, Shinron had actually been killed, and that's why he went to Kami's lookout for the first time was to...
Damn, assassinating a dragon. That's cruel, man.
Yeah, Piccolo fucking used Shinron to get his wish, and then he was like...
shooting a panda. Just a dick move.
And he was like, piss off, Ghost, and he shot Shinron with a
rifle.
with a destructive wave.
AKA a rifle. So what I wanted to move on to though in terms of the actual tournament. Oh no. Going back to Roshi for a second. Vegeta getting caught up in the Mafuba. Holy fuck. I was convinced for a minute that he was done. I was like, man, Vegeta's gonna get knocked out by Roshi. That's gonna be bad. I thought that was all really good though, the way that played out.
Yeah. The Super Riders really like the Mafuba because they used it during the Goku Black stuff.
They used it during the Black stuff as well. I feel like,
remember,
but I feel like they did that.
You remember how great that was? You remember how freaked out Zamasu was by that move after he almost got...
Do you remember how freaked out Frost was when he almost got fucking sucked in? Frost was like, "Are you fucking kidding me? What the fuck was that?" I thought it was a little weird that he learned how to do it so quickly. That was a little weird.
Yeah. It was one of those weird Dragon Ball Super moments where you're just like...
There's a lot of that in this tournament of, like, a character will do a move, and then the character they're fighting will suddenly be able to do that move, too. Like, how many people learned the instant transmission by watching Goku do it?
True, yeah.
Kale... Well, I mean, Kefla was the one who was doing it. Who else? There was another one who learned how to do it, too.
At least they learned it by watching Goku do it, so there's like an explanation. It's not just like you remember in the second Cooler movie where Cooler just out of nowhere goes...
Cooler also knows instant transmission?
Yeah, for no reason. He just goes, "Oh, I can do that too."
I would assume, going back to that retrospectively, that the Big Getty Star in that continuity must have destroyed Yardrat. And they, like, assimilated the information of their culture and learned the instant transmission. That's how Cooler knows that. That's what I would assume.
Because if he knew it before he was a metal Cooler, then surely he would have used it to his advantage in the first movie.
Yeah, I mean, technically Goku should have known it at that point, too, but the fucking anime wasn't up to that point yet, so the movie didn't include that.
Yeah.
Because technically that movie has to take place in the 3 years between the androids, which is weird when you actually watch it. Why does Gohan have a tail? It's weird.
I never thought about that before, but you're right. Maybe he did learn it from the Big Ghetto Star.
Most likely.
Didn't even necessarily have to be Yardrat. Maybe they just assimilated someone who knew that technique somewhere across the...
I was disappointed with the Yardrat. That was.
I was going to bring that up. It's weird.
He was nothing. I like that he fought Goku. That was nice, but he does nothing.
He also makes no sense because he's from Universe 2, and when the concept of the universes was first introduced back during the Universe 6 stuff, it was explained that certain universes mirror each other. So that's why Saiyans exist in 7 and 6.
Oh, you're right.
Because those two universes are mirrors of each other. So that's why there's Saiyans and Frieza races and all that shit that exist in both of those universes. So I guess those rules are just out the window, and any species can exist in any universe now, just at the writer's whim, because all of a sudden...
Yeah, but you know what, though? I guess that's not a hard and fast rule, though. It's not like they established that only planets in sister universes can exist in those two universes.
They kind of implied it, though.
They definitely kind of implied it. I'm not saying they didn't.
I'm not even going to say
kind of. It's not a hard and fast rule.
I'm not even going to say kind of. They implied that shit.
It would have been. I would have been more okay with it had they done more with the Yardrat. But he just ended up being a dude for Brienne to want to fuck, which was weird. Ugh, very
Matter of
weird.
fact, now that I think about it, none of the other universes in this tournament that were supposed to be mirrors of each other had like similar races or anything like
No,
that.
I
Like
was looking for that as well.
they did nothing with that idea. Because it's interesting, the 4 universes that didn't have to compete in the tournament at all were mirrors of each other. So,
Well, technically 4 and 9 both had dogs.
I mean, I guess that was maybe them thinking of that.
And it's universes that add up to 13, right?
Right. But how much of that was intentional and how much of it was the animators
Listen.
growing up playing Star Fox?
Listen, I did actually play Star Fox when I was a kid. I was about to say I didn't, but I did.
Did you ever do a barrel roll?
I did. I did several.
Ooh.
Listen, man.
Ooh.
I used to play as Slippy. All right, I know who fucking Slippy is.
Is Slippy the frog?
No, Slippy is the bird. Of course, Slippy's the fucking frog.
What?
Fucking idiot. No, don't know shit.
Don't give me attitude about fucking Star Fox.
I'll give you all the attitude about Slippy I want. All right.
You can't piss on hospitality. I won't allow it.
I'll piss on Star Fox all I want. You all right? Anyway.
You know what? You do. You piss all over every copy. I don't care.
Sounds like a lot of work. I don't feel like I have the piss capacity for that. All right.
You can take one at a time.
All right.
Once a day, you just plop a copy of Star Fox in the toilet and go to town.
So, we definitely both agree that Android 17 was awesome. And I mean, the fact that he won the tournament didn't hurt his reputation.
Spoiler alert!
Oh, we're so... I didn't think that we were gonna hold back on that, but it's too late now. But before we get to him, though...
That was interesting, him winning.
You...
I liked that. I was pleasantly...
Yeah, that was... I mean, I feel like if they would have done if they would have had anybody else win, it would have been like, oh, okay. You know, it would have been like, all right, well, I guess that's a pick. But then it's like 17. It's like, oh, I thought he was dead. All right.
They made a lot of interesting choices in that last episode. In a series that usually plays it safe and always ends with Goku beating the bad guy, they had Goku having to team up with Frieza to beat the bad guy, eliminating themselves in the process, and leaving 17 as the only person standing, and 17 being the winner of the fucking tournament.
They've done a good job of that in Super, though, of not just having it be Spirit Bomb, wipe out the bad guy. It hasn't been that since Frieza. Universe 6, it wasn't...
It was that with Kid Buu.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm referring to. With the Spirit Bomb. When I say Frieza, I mean Resurrection F. But even that was different. It wasn't like Goku did that on his own.
Yeah.
Far from it.
They did do the weird trunk stuff at the end of the Black Saga. This was better than that, though, just because it made more sense.
But I mean, even at the end of Black, having Zeno wipe out the fucking that timeline is way more interesting than just having Goku wipe out Black. So my only point is that I think that overall Super has done a good job of avoiding that trope. They definitely play with it in fun ways, and I think that this did a killer job with that. How they played Ultra Instinct.
I don't know. I could maybe agree if they had let Vegeta take the win in the Universe 6 tournament, maybe. And then we would have 3 arcs in a row where it was them doing something different. But as it stands, we have 2 arcs in a row of them doing something different.
Goku didn't win in the Universe 6 arc. Hit did, and then he let Monica win.
Oh, that's true. I forgot about that.
That's what I'm saying. They haven't really done Goku just saves the day since Frieza. That's why I'm saying I think they've done a good job of that.
That's interesting. I forgot about that. You're right. Hit did win, actually.
Mm-hmm.
Weird.
Goku didn't even beat that Frieza clone on that planet. Not Frieza, the Vegeta clone on that planet. He didn't even do that. They've done a good job of kind of pulling the carpet out from under us at the end of all this stuff.
Now that I think about it, Goku hasn't had like a traditional win in the entirety of the series, because if you think about the 2 movie rehashes, Goku doesn't beat Beerus in Battle of Gods, and he
does wipe out Frieza, but it's thanks to time travel.
Right. It's due to Deus Ex Vis.
Right.
who then later Deus Exes Frieza back to life.
Yeah, and that is without a doubt them going no more spirit bombs wiping out the bad guy. Like, and I mean, they make a big deal out of that trope in this tournament, which I love.
Yeah.
When oh man, when he puts his arms up, I was like, oh fuck, this is gonna be badass.
A spirit bomb kind of beat the bad guy once, but it was in the form of a sword, and it was way cooler.
We talking about Trunks in
Yeah, that was
in the Black Saga.
yeah, that was basically a spirit
That didn't end the arc though.
No.
I'm talking about truly ending things. That was one of the many Boo Saga-esque things they threw in at the end of that arc to try and end things. Your Super Saiyan Blue Vegetos and your fucking Super Saiyan Blue grade Super Saiyan Trunks, all that.
I'm glad that thanks to Kefla, we finally have a fusion who didn't fucking run out before she could finish a fight.
Man, that was cool. Of all my biggest problem, my biggest problem. Oh, really? You called that? That surprised the hell out of me.
No, I was expecting her fusion to run out, and then that be the way.
Her fusion to run out. Oh,
yeah,
okay.
I was expecting that to be their way out because it was like, oh, Goku can't beat this chick. This is crazy. What's gonna happen? I thought she was gonna get right up on him to like deliver a final blow, and then she would split back into two because they have done that every fucking time up until now, and so that's what I was just banking on, and they didn't do it.
No,
so that was.
They had him go Ultra Instinct, which that ended up surprising me more. I was like, oh, we're going back to that now, really? I thought we were gonna take a break from that for a while, which is probably, and what they did with that in that scene was probably cooler than just having the fusion split up. Like when he climbs their attack and morphs the Kamehameha at once. That was pretty fucking badass.
Can we talk about Ultra Instinct for a second?
Yeah. Well, I mean, we can come back to 17 then, or some of the other characters we were trying to talk about. So,
what do you want to say about 17?
No. We'll come back to it. Ultra Instinct, yeah.
Ultra Instinct, I think, is my favorite new form that they've introduced.
Yeah, it really grew on me. I was against it from the onset. You remember when we were talking about it when they first announced it, and I was like, oh god, they're just fucking with his original form again. That's all they've done since they've done Super, is just make him look slightly different. But man, when I saw it in action and I heard that fucking song, I was like, oh no, this is really cool.
Well, and what we ultimately found out was that the version of Ultra Instinct he used the first couple times wasn't even like the full thing. That was just him tapping into the power. And then once he actually achieved it, it was a whole different thing. It had white hair this time. Right. Ooh, Tommy Oliver. But yeah, I really fucking like it because it's the first form since the original Super Saiyan that they had set up like way earlier on in the series.
Yes.
I never expected that. I always thought that line that Whis had in Resurrection F, where he talks about learning to fight without thinking and your body moving on its own, I always thought that it was just like a throwaway line. It was just
kind
like
of vague and spacious. It's like a vague goal for any martial artist.
Yeah, I thought it was just like a way of him explaining like how to achieve like that sort of godlike level of fighting, and I never thought it was going to go any more than that. Turns out it was a setup for a fucking transformation, and we haven't seen that since the original Super Saiyan. There are mumblings of like Super Saiyan going like, I think as far back as the Saiyan saga. I think Vegeta mentions it at least once, or maybe it doesn't start until the Namek ship. But point being, Super Saiyan was something that was long established.
It's definitely not mentioned in the manga part of the Saiyan saga. In the anime, maybe, but I don't think it was mentioned in the manga part.
Yeah, I can't remember, but it was something. But it was very long established.
But also like this, even though it was set up, when it actually happens, you totally forgot about it. It's like, oh fuck. It's definitely that kind of moment.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I was really surprised by how much I was like, I really think it's the one since the original Super Saiyan where it's like this feels like it's a different thing and it's exciting, and it feels like there's new possibilities after it, because especially since Goku can't do it again, like it's like the original Super Saiyan as well in that he can't control it at all. Although he was able to control that a lot easier than this, seemingly, because At the end of that first fight with Frieza, he deactivates it, and then he reactivates it at will. And then later on, he's all like, "Oh, it took me a while to control it." And I'm like, you know what? You did it in the first fight, you lying fuck.
But there was a period of time where he didn't really have that level of control over the original Super Saiyan. Like, he couldn't just turn it on and off. And that's something that more so gets explored in, like, not even in the anime, in the fucking, like, Cooler movie, where he's, like, shooting Kamehamehas into the ocean randomly to try and, keep up his power, and he doesn't transform willingly in that. He has to have another rage moment like he did against Frieza.
Sorry, go ahead.
In the actual story proper, he just spends a year training with yard rats, and then he shows up on Earth and he can just do it.
I really like the whole use of different forms for him, because they all have different values and different kind of impacts on his fighting. Mm-hmm. So depending on who he was fighting, it's either like a regular Super Saiyan fight or a divine fight, So like when he's first fighting Kale and Caulifla, it's not he doesn't go blue. He goes Super Saiyan and Super Saiyan 2, because that's what they're doing. So he's kind of staying on their keel and saving his power. But also, fighting as a Super Saiyan 2 is very different from fighting as a Super Saiyan Blue, because you're channeling a different kind of energy, and you're moving more ferociously. So I liked all that, and I liked the way they played with it, and I liked that we got to like see Super Saiyan 2 for an extended period of time. Goku like never pulls out Super Saiyan 2 on him,
Yeah.
It was such a big deal during the Cell Saga and early on in the Buu Saga, and then like it got train wrecked by a whole bunch of other stuff, like 3 and the fusion and everything.
I mean, 3 came along and just changed the game, and I like that by the end of the series, that's Caulifla's big goal. She wants to get to do Super Saiyan 3. I'm so glad they didn't just hand her that one during the tournament like they did 1 and 2.
Even though Goku like teased maybe that would had they not rushed to the end, maybe they would have gone there, but they ended up knocking them off. So
yeah, I'm hoping we get some, because they've been teasing the idea of Vegeta and maybe Goku tagging along, going to visit Planet Sadal at some point, and I'm kind of hoping maybe that's got something to do with this movie coming out later.
I think that'll be the opening. Or that's what Goku and Vegeta will be doing in kind of the present, and then the action will start, and then they'll have to go back.
Yeah, because there is this new villain that was created for a mobile game, but there's always the possibility that maybe he also might be the movie villain. I don't know, but his armor looks a lot more similar to me to like the sleeker sort of version of the armor from Universe 6 than like the traditional armor. So maybe it's actually a Universe 6 Saiyan. Again though, he might just be game only, and I'm wrong.
You're talking about the guy who like clearly the villain.
Yeah, there's a mobile. I forget what the mobile game's called. I think
he's probably going to be from Universe 7, because what I've gleaned about it so far is that he's like the OG Super Saiyan God.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, maybe Universe 6 has one too. I kind of hope there's something like that, but I think the bad guy will be from Universe 7, but I think that they'll definitely be from some Universe 6 interaction. But Ultra Instinct overall, I mean, really the thing that sold it was the fighting style is just completely different from anything we've seen before. It's not like Super Saiyan where it's just sheer power and kind of glorifying energy. It's this awareness and this kind of like lack of care and this indifference to danger. Goku's essentially fighting like almost like Daredevil. We're just like every threat is sensed like so long before it comes that it's not even an issue. Like when he just when Toppo fires his Justice, whatever the hell that fucking attack was called, Justice Blast or whatever, Goku doesn't even like dodge it. He just like turns a little bit and it misses him completely, and he just keeps walking towards Jiren. Like, man, that looked cool.
Yeah.
I just think they made a really good use. They used. Okay, I'm sorry, that sounded terrible. They used the digital animation really well in those fights to do something really different with that transformation.
Yeah.
I was immensely satisfied with all that. I didn't have that, oh my god, we're just having Goku transform again to solve all the problems, because it wasn't that.
Yeah.
It was, we have a genuine idea here, and we're gonna put him through something different, and I was really satisfied with it.
Yeah. I just sent you a link to that new character I was talking about that's created for that game. You can
Oh, this, okay, you know what? You're probably right. This probably will be a Universe 6 Saiyan then.
Yeah, because look at that armor. It's much more Kaba than it is.
He almost looks like an older Kaba.
Yeah, but again, I don't know if this is. I don't know if this is going to play into that movie at all. That's just a conspiracy theory, that they're saying, "Oh, this is for the new game." But is he really just for the new game? I don't know.
Or any of us really just for the new game?
Probably. But anyway.
Do you think that Toriyama was throwing some nods to Super Saiyan 4 and Super Saiyan 5 of the post GT fandom with Ultra Instinct, the way it looked initially? Because the way it looked initially, Goku in the face and the hair, I got some Super Saiyan 4 vibes, you know?
I mean, it wouldn't be
Super Saiyan 4 is just like Goku's black hair longer and in a weird shape, which is essentially what this was, and he's just got the blue shimmer. And then later on, when he goes the full Ultra Instinct, it's just white, which is what Super Saiyan 5 was in the Dragon Ball AF manga and all that shit.
I wouldn't be surprised if it was. I mean,
It
it wouldn't be
a lot of that.
It wouldn't be the first time that Dragon Ball Super has thrown nods at GT, actually. There was the episode where Pan was flying in space. That always struck me as like a kind of like a little wink.
Sure, you're right.
All of the metal men from that one universe
Universe 4.
Looked a lot like the robot men from the first arc of GT on that planet, They were
there's the one God of Destruction who looks a lot like that one robot from GT, even though he turns out to not be a robot. He's a Men in Black alien.
There's even a General Rildo-esque liquid metal man on that team, so come on.
Oh, yeah. He was cool. The fucking, like, I'm trying to think of a superhero character equivalent to him. I guess he's kind of like a Mr. Fantastic type, but he almost reminded me more of, like, Hydro Man.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah.
I liked him a lot, especially when he fought Dispo. And Dispo's like, I can't do it. And Jiren's like, all right, fuck it, I'm getting in. And Jiren just wipes the floor with him. All right, D. With that, we're pretty far into this already. I think we need to talk about Jiren. I think we need to broach that now, because we haven't really talked about him at all.
Okay. Do you want to talk about 17 quick, since you kept trying to do that before, and then because I feel like that'll be a quicker conversation, and then end on Jiren, or do you just want to get right into Jiren?
We could. All right. So let's wrap up on 17 then, since it keeps coming up. First things first. I think I may have asked you this earlier, but I think we started talking about something else. Were you disappointed at all with what they did with 18? Because I mean, that was a really cool inclusion to even throw her in there as one of the 10. And I thought that the way they fought together was really cool, but she didn't really get a big moment.
Well, she took out Rebrand, didn't she? When at the very end, when Rebrand went into like that giant form, wasn't it 18 who flew up and fucking punched her in the face or whatever?
Oh my god! Okay, but it didn't stick out to me as much. See, like I feel like I would have remembered that better had it really satisfied me, but. Yeah, no, I feel like she could have gotten more. What I was the most satisfied with was her and 17's dialogue together. And, like I said, the way they interacted when they were fighting together. Because it felt so reminiscent of, like, early on Cell Saga stuff. Of them just, driving around the countryside looking for Goku. But this time they're fighting in a fucking inter-universal tournament. And they're the good guys. So, it was really, really cool. You can tell Toriyama, like, went back and read Dragon Ball, and it feels weird, and I'm sure he didn't enjoy it. I know a lot of people don't like reading their own work, and he strikes me as maybe one of those kind of guys. But you can tell he did for this, because he pulls a lot of stuff that even people like us go, oh wow, he remembers that, like androids of infinite energy, like that they make a pretty big thing out of that. I would have. I would have just assumed, oh, I remember the fact that they're strong. Remember that? Okay, cool. You know, I mean, remember Toriyama didn't even remember there was a difference between Super Saiyan 2 and 3 going into Super. You know, he had to remind himself of that. So I'm really glad that, you know, we have moments where, you know, some of the stronger characters in the tournament are like, we're having trouble with these guys because they don't tire, you know?
Yeah,
Like,
I really
Topo was like, I'm getting sick of this shit.
Yeah, I really liked that 17 and 18 wound up being such an asset in this tournament because of their unlimited sort of stamina, and that's perfectly suited to this kind of tournament specifically. Like if anyone was built to compete in the tournament of power, it's these guys. And that was great.
Mm-hmm. Especially since all the other characters have a problem with stamina. Like Goku, that's his Achilles heel the whole tournament. Is he just keeps going, I'm done, I'm at my limit.
Yeah, and it's because he keeps fucking going all out every fucking time he fights. The idiot. Yeah.
Which is weird because usually he doesn't do that. Usually that's his Achilles heel, is that he keeps holding back. But that wasn't the issue this time. Well, but he was also like getting
I feel like it was just because there were so many strong people around at once.
Because he was getting thrown into fights that he wanted to do that with. So that was the problem he was having.
He was just a fucking kid in a candy store.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we knew that was going to be his Achilles heel when this whole thing started. Was that he was too into it, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, think about their, like, you know, Gohan and all them want like, oh, everybody stay together. Don't fight more than one enemy, you know, by yourself. And Goku's like, oh, you fucking stupid.
Yeah.
Goku's like, I'm going to take on 2 Super Saiyan 2s at once, you fuck.
2 female Super Saiyan 2s. Never saw that before.
Ooh, I know we're talking about 17. Hey, his barrier was cool. Man.
Oh, he really spammed that move.
Yeah, but like I said, they make reference to it. Like Topo at that one point was like, I'm getting fucking sick of this. Like, this is getting annoying.
Yeah, I was like, is 17 me when I play Mortal Kombat right now? Just spamming the same move over and over and over again. Like, I mean, and that was another reason he was the fucking MVP of this tournament, because those things came in fucking handy.
Yeah, I mean, he kept saving people's asses with them. Even like he saved Frieza at that one point. And Frieza was like,
saved his own ass on more than one occasion.
Yeah. What I was gonna say though, just to go back a little bit, and this is not about 17, but episode 100, a fight between Goku, Caulifla, and Kale, and it's basically like the mini Broly movie of this arc. That's when Kale freaks out and goes Legendary Super Saiyan, even though they don't call it that. I thought that was really fun because they basically recreated the fight from the end of the first Broly movie. Almost shot for shot, except for the last punch. I thought that was really fun because, you know, like I said, you just don't expect them to remember stuff like that. And I just thought it was really fun.
I feel like that was whoever was in charge of the animation of that episode being a huge geek and loving the Broly movie.
Yeah.
Is I feel like what happened there.
I definitely feel like there was some scripting, though, of going, we're going to structure this a bit like making that the big event.
I liked the misdirect that they did early on in the art, too. Like, when Kale and Caulifla were first introduced, I immediately thought Caulifla was going to be Girl Broly, and then it became obvious to me that it was Kale.
Right. Well, I mean, you put it together pretty quickly, obviously, once you see Kale. Like, she's got the exact Broly demeanor and outfit.
Yeah, and when you actually pay attention to the intro animation, that's who you see transform.
Right.
But, I wanted to ask you something about Kale while we're on the subject of Kale.
Oh, I want to talk about her too. Something about her too. Yeah, go ahead.
For the most part, her sort of berserker form is a pretty accurate representation of what Broly's legendary Super Saiyan form was back in the movies. But they did depart very heavily from her just being Girl Broly in one major respect, in that they gave her a new form in which she kind of smart hulked that shit and mastered the rage and just turned into a very tall woman with green hair, but wasn't a fucking scary man woman. And my question to you was, how did you feel about that?
Yeah, no, I loved that. I liked that there was a form beyond the Berserker Hulk form of, like, controlled it's like this. It's like Super Saiyan 2, basically. It's
Yeah.
it's that form beyond the Ultra Saiyan, as we call it, the Ultra Ascended Saiyan.
Yeah, I like for them to at some point to explain why she's so different. Maybe she's some sort of a mutant or something.
Well, they need to explain what the hell a legendary Super Saiyan was supposed to be in the first place, and then we can move on. But no, I liked that quite a bit. I all of her powers and everything. When she was fucking fighting, she was awesome. But dude, God, I got really sick of her. Like her whining. Like I understand that we're supposed to, but I think a lot of it is the way it's portrayed in Japanese and the way that in this culture that this kind of thing is evoked. It just came off as super, super obnoxious to me, and I don't like that character at all. Like, on a level of, as a person. Like, she's cool, and I think that she's fun to watch fight, and she serves as a really good foil for Goku in this. But she is not a good... I just didn't enjoy following her. And I mean, maybe we're not supposed to. Maybe we're supposed to hate her and think that she's annoying. But I don't think so. I think we're supposed to pity her and think that she should, get over her own anxiety and just, accept her own strength and be confident confident like Caulifla. But they just kept hammering that point home. Like, they kept having her realize it, and then I don't know, they just, like, at the very end, it was like, when they were fused, like, all that was great. But it was before that, when we kept having to have her go through that realization. I just got sick of it.
I liked that by the end, I think she did sort of come into her own and stop being such a whiny bitch. Especially after she got that the form where she mastered the berserker powers. She seemed like she reached a new level of confidence and was, a more outgoing character afterwards. So I liked that.
I'm sure if we see her again, she'll be a lot better. But you know what I had a problem with? I didn't understand why Caulifla had such an attachment to her. Like, they didn't explain that at all. We're just supposed to assume that they've been comrades for a long time. They're not actually sisters, right?
No, I don't think so.
So I was just left to wonder, like, why does she put up with it? I guess she knows that. I guess that she knows she's really strong.
Wasn't Caulifla somehow related to Kaba or something?
No, Caulifla was related to the guy who Kaba tried to recruit initially, the old Saiyan captain who was like Indian.
Oh yeah,
I don't know why he went to him. What a fucking idiot. Kaba, I just kind of like less and less as we see him. Like, such a great idea, but like he's almost he's at his best when Vegeta is like yelling at him. Like that. Like, that's when he's at his most interesting. But outside of that, he's kind of a dud. Like, he's about to do a cool thing, and then he doesn't get to do the cool thing. Who did he get to take out? He got to take out that big ball lady. I remember that. That was all right.
Yeah.
I don't really remember him getting to... He when he fought Frieza, that was really good.
Yeah. He acquired Super Saiyan.
I was waiting for that.
He acquired Super Saiyan 2, didn't he?
He did acquire Super Saiyan 2. They all acquired Super Saiyan 2. Everybody went Super Saiyan. Krillin's going Super Saiyan 2. Master Roshi's going Super Saiyan 2. It's wild.
Yeah, Oprah was there saying, "You get to go Super Saiyan 2, and you get to go Super Saiyan 2."
It was crazy.
Everybody go Super Saiyan 2. That's a really weird spoiler
Beerus went Super Saiyan Rose. It was crazy.
It's a really weird spoiler for Wrinkle in Time.
I feel like we haven't talked about, like, the Gods of Destruction or Whis or the Supreme Kais or anything at all.
I liked that early on, before the tournament actually started. We got to see some of the Gods of Destruction mixing it up.
Yes, I was really, like, hesitant when I was watching this initially. Like, when it was... Because I was watching all that stuff when it was airing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, all the... all the... this universe is talking to this universe about doing this. I was like, can we get to the fucking fighting, please? But but going back to it, having seen the fighting, like, bits of it, I was like, oh, this is what would happen, and I want to know what these gods of destruction are going to do in this situation, so that way I know who each of them are going into the tournament in relation to the people who are going to actually be doing the fighting. Because otherwise they're just cold commentators. Which is, if you just watch the fucking fighting, which is how they come off, but if you have that kind of, you know each of their personalities going in, it feels a lot more well thought out, and I was impressed with that. I think that there's a lot more thought into each universe and each god of destruction than I think we're giving them credit for in this podcast. And I overall think this arc is better than you might think it comes off listening to this podcast.
Yeah. We're bitching all about a lot of the things that drove us crazy, but there's a lot.
We're bitching about the moments that held back this otherwise intensely entertaining thing that Dylan kept up with for months and months, and that I binged in like a week, less than a week. We experienced it in different ways, and I think that this binge is better. And had you watched it that way, you may have had less of a problem with like the rebrand stuff and all that, because it would have felt like it constituted less time. But it is definitely I think, and we still definitely have things to say about it. I'm not saying like this we're wrapping up, but I think it's definitely my favorite of all the arcs. I don't know if you feel that way about it, but I definitely think of like, if I'm gonna rewatch one, it's gonna be this. I'll go back to Goku. I'm also rewatching Goku Black in the dub right now, and enjoying that. But idea wise, like this this throws in everything except the kitchen sink, and that doesn't necessarily mean it has to be good. But I think that the execution is more often than not satisfying than it's not.
On the whole, just
how do you
because
stand
of like
on that series of statements?
On the whole, just because of the weird sort of pacing issues that I was describing, I think I still enjoyed the Goku Black arc slightly more, but very slightly.
Mm-hmm.
Because again, there's a lot of cool stuff here to love.
Do you think it's personal preference? Because I think I just personally prefer the idea of the tournament over what they ended up doing with Black. I feel like I could have been won over, but I was just really excited about that concept because I really loved the Universe 6 saga.
Also, I think the Black arc is the one that feels the most Z out of any of the arcs, and Z is my jam.
I think that this one does the best job of balancing Dragon Ball and Z. I feel like this is what Super was setting out to do in the first place. Because the first,
I agree.
The first Battle of Gods movie is a really did that perfectly as well, and I feel like this show has been trying to recapture that since then, and to varying degrees of success. And I think this is the best of that. And I feel like this tournament was the best means to do that, because you still have the threat of everybody fucking dying, which is Z, and then you also have the fun and, kind of zaniness of a weird over-the-top situation like the Tournament of Power, which is out of Dragon Ball.
Yeah, we also don't really have a villain in this arc. We just have a guy who turns out to be kind of a douche.
And we'll get into Jiren in detail in a second. Yeah, no, he's not the villain. He's just kind of he's an antagonist, to be sure, but there are many antagonists.
He's just a total dick.
He's up his own ass, and we've known people like Jiren. I'll tell you that much.
Yes, we have.
I'll tell you that much. So yeah, let's talk about Jiren. Wow, I didn't know what to, because going into this tournament, I figured Toppo would be like the big bad. I had forgotten that he mentioned that somebody else was in his universe that was stronger. So once Jiren was kind of...
Oh, you didn't take that from the intro animation? where Goku was just fighting Jiren over...
Not until you told me about it when we were first discussing it, and then I was like, oh, okay. And then I was like, oh yeah, I guess that's probably what that means. But no, I didn't really put it together until they started kind of addressing it in the show. And he didn't really impress me at first in terms of look, because he's a gray Majin Buu. that looks a little bit more like a traditional extraterrestrial in like a American movie. You know, he's kind of playing with that, and that
See,
look, and
he's
that
got I think he's got kind of an Ultraman vibe, which is interesting.
yeah, I can
Because
see that too.
because so does Jocko. He almost feels like a really buff Jocko. I wish we could have gotten some more Jocko before the series concluded. I love Jocko.
Yes. Jocko wanted to be at the tournament because of the way the tournament ended up being set up. It wasn't like a, hey, everybody come watch the fun fight. It's, all right, we need to try to make our universe survive now.
Yeah, you're all gonna die. This is very serious.
Yeah, which we'll talk about how that played out after Jiren, because I feel like we have to definitely address that. So Jiren himself, though, really grew on me as, oh no, they have actually come up with a character that really feels like a true trump card to Goku in this tournament. Like, that first fight between him and Goku, it was a fuck me moment. I mean, when you're watching that shit and you don't know how it's gonna go down, like I didn't, because I was really far behind when I was binging this initially, I was like, man, he went blue Kaioken, it didn't do shit. This is fucking wild. I mean, the spirit bomb was a joke. And I mean, and it wasn't even a joke. I mean, that whole scene was like a fucking apocalyptic event. Jiren, from the get-go, is a no-nonsense, take-no-names motherfucker.
Yeah.
And I definitely think that he proves his worth. If fucking Goku up isn't enough for you, his fight with Hit is even
the episode...
He is even more of a, like, this guy, there's nobody on this stage who's capable of one-upping this dude, because you think, like, okay, well, if Goku can't do it, maybe Hit has some trick that he didn't even show against Goku in the Universe 6 tournament that he can use against this guy. But Jiren's strength is so vast that time, it doesn't affect it. That's what they say, and it's fucking wild.
When the episode where he wrecked Hit was where they really sold me on him, because I didn't have any illusions about Topo being the main antagonist, because the fucking intro animation was Goku fighting Jiren. If you remember,
still got a lot. Topo still got a lot of really great stuff to do, though. Really satisfied
if you remember,
with him.
The first time we got images of the Zen exhibition match, it was actually Jiren that was in the hood there with Vermouth or Belmont or whatever your preferred translation of God of Destruction, Pennywise.
Clown dude, yeah.
Yeah. It was actually Jiren that was at the Zen exhibition match with him, and then for whatever reason, when the episode came around, they had changed it to Topo, because I remember just seeing the hooded figure, and it was just like a white face underneath, just a blank white face. It kind of looked like Palpatine. And then when the actual episode came out, it was the big fucking mustache, and I was like, oh, they've changed something. So originally, it would seem like Jiren was supposed to be the one who came to witness that. I guess they just wanted to save him.
And given that Topo turned out to be the one who was the god of destruction in training, it kind of makes sense that he was the one who was there retrospectively.
Yeah.
But and also because Jiren is completely independent of all that. Like, Topo's the one in charge of the Pride Troopers. Jiren's not the leader. Like, everybody looks at him like he's the boss of Universe 11. He's not. He's just the strongest. You know, he's the boss by proxy. Topo's the one who's leading the charge and giving all the orders.
Well, there's also that general guy.
He's like kind of a field commander, you know.
He kind of strikes me as like the Nick Fury, and Topo is like the Tony Stark, or maybe Captain America would be a better analogy.
I would break it down like in military terms, just to make it simpler. Jiren is like a nuclear weapon. Jiren is a general, and then that guy who's called the general is more of like a major in like proper military terms, because majors are the ones who are more on the ground. I thought that worked really well, because Topo's personality was really like endearing, and so was that general guy's. Like that one episode where he saves the cat, like the space cat. That's a good way to get me behind somebody, is to have them save a space cat. So, that worked well for me. And then Topo overall was a wholesome, upstanding dude who just happened to think that Goku was a total fuckwit. So, You know.
I was hoping that he would have a moment of realization by the end that Goku wasn't the
Yeah, well,
piece
I
of
mean,
shit that he thought he was.
everybody put it together of like what his true intention was, and that it wasn't really that bad.
Yeah.
Once they actually started fighting him, which is of course what we all figured would happen. And I mean, and I swear to God, we'll talk more about Jiren in a second. We got to talk about his backstory. That's the real thing we have to get to. But then that was the one thing, is that ultimately the other trope that we have to continue on, and this is one that I always hope that they do continue with, is that, you know, Goku's always able to assemble allies by fighting them. You know, he even gets Jiren to smile at the end before he's erased, which is you know, that given what happened, I that was a big moment, because even Goku says to him, like, you'll probably hate this, but I kind of hope we fight again one day. And I think that we both got stronger doing this. And Jiren doesn't hate it. And I was like, there's a lot of really good self-awareness in that. And I did think that this tournament was a lot of Goku being, like, really disturbingly self-aware and pulling the fucking hat over, like, the audience's eyes of, like, he's been kind of, like, on his absolute dumbest behavior this whole series. Now he's finally gotten what he's been after the whole time, and now he's going to suddenly be really scarily crafty. And I thought that was really fun.
Yeah.
You know, he's going to he's going to suddenly bust out Super Saiyan God, which I didn't even realize he could do on his own.
Yeah, well that's never been properly explained.
Right. Now I get it, because now watching the dub of Super, they early on explain Super Saiyan Blue in that as the Super Saiyan equivalent to Super Saiyan God. So we already kind of get the sense, now that I've seen this, that Vegeta must have at least gone Super Saiyan God at some point.
Well, there's a moment in the manga version of Super, which is very different from the anime in several ways. But there's a point at some point where, I think during the black stuff maybe, where you actually get to see Vegeta use the red form.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, he must be able to do it, given how it must work, given what we see in this, where essentially Super Saiyan God is the normal state Goku Vegeta Saiyan with the divine energy. And then Super Saiyan Blue is the divine energy Super Saiyan form. So now that makes sense to me. But that's not how it was explained initially. Initially, it was Super Saiyan God was a thing I tapped into at one point. I can't do it, and I've learned how to tap into that power on my own. That's what Super Saiyan Blue is. Super Saiyan Blue is my way of getting into God power. So
yeah,
now we know that Goku can do both.
Sean Schimmel did a great job reading that line too.
Like, I understand, like, when they explained it in Resurrection F the movie, I was like, oh my god, I understand that. That's great. And then when they did it in the anime, I was like, oh, they didn't fuck it up, but they fucking they unnecessarily complicated it.
I don't know if they retconned it or if that was kind of a difference between the dub and the sub to begin with. I don't know.
They just changed it. They just kind of went, he can go Super Saiyan God too.
Yeah. I guess they figured we want to use that form again. It's cool.
So what they really had to do for me to put me over the hill of going, Jiren is more than just a guy to punch, is they had to make me care about him. Because I've cared about all of the antagonistic characters in Super. There hasn't been one where I've been like, let's throw this guy out. Like, in terms of, like, the big villains I'm talking. Like Black, like Zamasu, like Hit, like Champa, like, you know, obviously Frieza. Beerus is like my fucking jam. So all of them have been, like, I've grown to care about them and want to see them again. And it wasn't until they really have to cement that Jiren is Goku gone bad, that I was like, okay, now I want to, I don't know, now not only do I want to learn more about this guy, but I want to see this guy again in the future and see him do other stuff and fight Goku again. Because I really liked that idea of Goku is obsessed with fighting and growing stronger because He just wants to keep pushing his limits, and he just wants to keep seeing how further and further he can go until he dies. That's basically what Goku wants. Jiren has this insecurity about strength. He has this need to be in control, this absolute obsession. And that's why he has to be the strongest. Because he simply has to be.
Yeah. Well, what's great about
and that's
Jiren,
why he fails, because of that insecurity.
what I think is great about his backstory is that they kind of do something that they didn't do with any of the other universes, in my opinion. But they should have, because it just makes sense. Jiren is the protagonist of a different anime that we never got to see. Like, that's the way his backstory is set up. And it's a very tragic anime about a poor young gray alien who before he could even experience his first anal probe, his family was ripped away from him by a mysterious, cloudy thing that
it was
almost...
an evil force. I was as much as I liked the ideas of his backstory, we need more. I wanted a little more. That's what I'll say.
Yeah.
I definitely wanted a little more. Like,
what if it had turned out to be fucking
Goku? No.
Well, no, I was gonna say
Goku shot his parents in a fucking alley.
I was gonna say Goku Black when he was traveling around the universes killing people.
I mean, sure, yeah. I mean, same diff. No.
But that was in Trunks' timeline, so that wouldn't have made sense.
No, it wouldn't have worked, because the idea that we always got with that was, like, Black was going to start with the parallel Earth that Trunks created as, like, punishment for what he did. And then he would go on to the rest of the creation after, and he just never got there because he got so distracted with that one city. Because he's a fucking OCD motherfucker.
Well, we do know that before he started destroying that city, though, he spent time traveling around to the different universes.
He killed all the gods, but that was it, pretty much.
Yeah.
He didn't start wiping out the mortals until he got to Trunks' Earth.
Which at the time sounded really impressive, but now we know that all that means is that he went around and killed all the Supreme Kais, and then the Gods of Destruction just kind of killed them.
Exactly. And we know that Zamasu was already, like one of the most powerful Supreme Kais, because he could do martial arts to begin with. So, not really all that impressive. And he had the body of Goku at that point.
I mean, the elephant guy would have got wiped out immediately when they killed Gowasu, and then after that it's just a matter of traveling around and being like, hello, fellow Kai, I am from Universe 10. Hey, look over there.
Yeah, but he probably would have done it as Black, though, because the other Zamasu wouldn't have been as powerful and might not have been able to do it.
That's true. I don't know.
Although the other Zamasu has the invincible body.
The other Zamasu also was a fighting prodigy, and I looked around at those Supreme Kais at the Tournament of Power, and I don't know that many of them could have beaten him in combat.
No, you're not wrong. Like, I mean, the fucking Universe 3 one is literally, like, a creepy IT guy.
Yeah, Revenge of the Nerds Supreme Kai, and then there's, like, Fat Supreme Kai.
Are you talking about the Universe 6 Supreme Kai?
No, not the fat green one. There was another one that was kind of fat, and he had, like, weird, like, Elvis-y hair. You know what I mean? You know what I'm talking about? Fuck. I wish I could remember.
I remember an angel with weird Elvis-y hair.
Maybe that's who I'm thinking of then. But there was also another Supreme Kai who was kind of portly.
The Universe 2 Supreme Kai was a little like... He was kind of old, but he wasn't fat. I really liked the Universe 2 God of Destruction, even if their whole universe annoyed the hell out of me. I liked the contradiction between her and Beerus was hilarious.
Yeah, what was her name again?
I have no fucking idea, but I liked her, and she's just like she's like a traditional Cleopatra looking chick, and that's why I thought that was a cool aesthetic. And then she's like all obsessed with beauty, and meanwhile she's a god of destruction, you know.
Yeah, there's like, I'm looking at them now. There's like 4 of them who are fat. There's the Universe 6 one who's also green for some reason.
The Universe 6 Supreme Kai sucks, too.
And then there's also, like, another fat green Supreme Kai, and then there's one who basically just looks like the one from our universe, but fat. And then there's a fat one who has, like, a big white Santa Claus beard.
That's the Universe 2 one. But, this Universe 6 Supreme Kai, all he does is go, oh dear me.
Yeah, the Universe 6...
Champa hates him.
The Universe 6 Supreme Kai is certainly the fattest, though. I'm just gonna throw that out there. He looked like Boo.
What happened to the other Universe 6 Supreme Kai who was at the Universe 6 tournament? Did he eat him?
Was he another Supreme Kai, or was he just like an attendant? Was he supposed to be
I
like a
think I
Khabib?
no, I think he was supposed to be like a maybe he was supposed to be like a Kibito, but he struck me as more of like a Supreme Kai in training.
Maybe he was a Kibito type figure, or if he was, maybe he was a Supreme Kai in training, but he didn't get to come to the tournament
Maybe
because
he too was fucking wiped out for insubordination.
perhaps maybe it was more of a Supreme Kai Elder Kai situation.
Who was who?
I don't know.
Okay. No. I don't know. Who knows? We'll never know. Maybe one day we'll know. So, overall, the thing about Jiren's backstory was that because of all the stuff they did with Master Roshi early on in the tournament, the thing with the Master really clicked with me, you know? The fact that that was his real emotional core. The guy who taught him martial arts, because he was the one who took him in, and that was the emotional crush that Jiren first learned to form a kind of way to interact with the world after his family was taken from him.
Yeah.
And in a way, you think back to Goku, out living in the woods with his grandpa.
He was his.
Only thing he has to do is learn martial arts and survive. Martial arts is his way of kind of coping, interacting with the outside world.
Yeah.
So, different, but kind of the same. And the deal with Master... And I mean, even if you think back to, like, Goku's relationship with Grandpa Gohan, given that he fucking killed him, you can kind of equate that, too.
Yeah.
Does Goku know that he killed his grandpa now?
I don't. You've asked me that before, and I feel
like we've had long conversations about this. Like,
and I'm still not sure.
If Bulma mentioned it now, if he would fucking freak out, because he must know that he did that at one point. I mean, he saw Vegeta and Gohan do it in front of him, so he's put it together that that's what Saiyans are capable of doing.
See, we've had this conversation, and I still don't know if he's ever figured it out. Even realizing that he must have been the big monkey thing.
See, that's the thing. I don't think that he thinks those things are mutually exclusive. I think that even if he figures out that he was the Uzaru that destroyed Pilaf's castle, I don't think he thinks that the Uzaru was the thing that killed Grandpa Gohan. I think you're right.
Right. Well, it's more like he's got all the puzzle pieces, and he just doesn't bother putting them together.
Yeah, it's like Monaka, like in that episode where he fights Beerus in the giant Monaka suit, and he doesn't figure out that he's Beerus, largely because he doesn't want it to be Beerus. He wants there to be some other guy in the Universe 7 who's like stronger than him and who can do all this crazy stuff that he doesn't understand. That's why that worked.
If he applied just a modicum of more brain power, he would probably figure it out. I just don't think he has.
But I don't even think it's brain power. He looks at the world and sees it a certain way, and he has zero.
It's definitely brain power.
No, it's partially brain power. But Goku is just like the most stubborn fuck on the planet too. It's not just a lack of intelligence; it's a lack of desire to like look at anything other than what can I fight that'll be strong. You know,
it's like somebody telling you what all of the variables in a equation equal, but you never bother plugging them back in to figure it out. You know what I mean?
But it's more if you already think you know the answer, so you're just gonna not bother because you just assume that that's what the answer is. You know what I mean? Because he has this preconceived notion of the world.
The point being, Goku's kind of an idiot, man. And that's why we love him.
That's why we love him, yeah. Exactly. And it's something that Frieza even mentions at the end of the tournament, like, you know, in the past your naivety has been like the reason why I hate you, but I've never been more grateful for it than in this moment. That's like as Dragon Ball fans, that's a shit your pants moment where Frieza is telling Goku like, "Hey, good job, buddy."
Mm-hmm.
You know? And then when Frieza's like, "You fill me with honor, Android 17." It's like, he's changed. Even if he's not... Frieza will never be a good guy. But he's changed a lot.
Yeah.
You know? And I think that's great.
He's a more reasonable guy.
He's a warrior now. He's a true fighter. He's not a fucking he's still sadistic, but he's not just a malicious tyrant anymore. He's a true warrior. And he's proven his salt in combat.
Yeah.
Which is the real thing that he never had done before. And I think that's why he's really different now. So overall, like I said, I think that Jiren was a really satisfying, thing to throw Goku up against and throw everybody up against, and a really satisfying thing to see Goku and Frieza team up against. But I definitely could have used with finding out who actually killed his parents. That was definitely a problem for me.
Yeah. I'd like to know that.
He didn't have any moves either. Any particular move.
Sure, he did. He had the eye. He had the eye thing. He had the thing.
The
with
way
his
he
fist.
moved. The way he moved. Yeah, he wouldn't move, but clearly his fists were moving. He was just moving so fast that you just couldn't tell.
He also had this thing he did a lot where he would light up his fist with ki. He did the Iron Fist thing.
There was also that attack where he would throw somebody with a ki blast. There was stuff, but I wish he had more of a big inevitably I'm gonna get to play as him in Fighter Z. I want to know what attacks I'm gonna get to use.
Yeah, he has this thing where it's basically the death ball, but bigger and badder. And usually when he fires it, it's small, and then at some point he expands it as it's flying towards the enemy.
I wonder if when he punches in Fighter Z, it's gonna move like that somehow.
Doesn't he do that? Doesn't he do that thing sometimes where he punches the air and it creates a shockwave that hits the enemy? Doesn't he do that sometimes? No, I'm thinking of Hit. Hit does that.
No, but Jiren has a way higher version of that where he'll just look at you and you'll get hit.
Yeah, he hit with that.
Yeah,
hit.
Exactly. There's that great moment where Hit goes, the moment I couldn't end it in one shot. I knew I was done.
Yeah.
All right, D. I think there's only one more thing we need to address, and then I think we definitely need to wrap this up because we're over 2 hours now. We kind of knew how this was gonna have to end when they announced this tournament and the rules. Fighters get knocked off the stage. When all of a universe's fighters have been knocked off, that universe is erased. The one universe that survives will be the only universe that remains at the end and win the Super Dragon Balls.
Well, one of the only 5 universes remaining.
Right, because there's obviously the 4 exempt ones. But everybody and their dog kind of figured that whoever won the Super Dragon Balls, especially if it was Goku, would use them to bring all the other universes back. Or
you know what maybe would have been more interesting?
Or convince Zeno to bring all the other universes back.
You know what would have maybe been more interesting?
What?
If one of the universes, say 11, probably 11, given that Jiren wound up being the big bad, what if they had also been technically exempt from the tournament, but they participated anyway because they were so fucking confident? Jiren would totally do that. Just to prove his superiority. Well, he's all about being the strongest and testing himself, and it would put him in a position where he would either be the strongest or get erased, and that's kind of his whole.
Oh, so Universe 11 forces their way into the tournament on principle?
Yeah, not forces. It's because I always got the feeling that if those other 4 universes had wanted to compete, they probably could have. They were exempt. It's not like anybody said you can't be in it. You know what I mean? I don't know. Or it could have been God of Destruction.
I see what you're saying.
Or it could have been God of Destruction.
They wouldn't have put their universes on the line, though. That's the thing.
Or it could have been God of Destruction, Pennywise's decisions to give him something interesting. Because God, I thought there was going to be something there, and there just wasn't.
Well, his interesting thing was he probably is a super lax God of Destruction, and because there's this being out there who's 10 times stronger than him, and he just kind of lets it slide. And he's got the next God of Destruction in training, busting out his powers in the middle of this tournament,
Yeah. I don't know. It would have been like even one more thing to make 11 like that universe seem badass. It was like, shit, they didn't even have to be here, and they fucking did it anyway.
It would have been interesting. I just think, I mean, at that point you're rewriting the entire like kind of context of the tournament from the get-go, so it would have been a lot different. But I'm not saying it would have been bad. But I just the more of the thing I was kind of wondering about was how we would resolve, getting rid of all those universes and because especially since like in the moment, like they really play up that they're gone forever. Like especially that final moment between Champa and Beerus, like that's great. Like fucking Beerus doesn't even look at him, and Champa just like pulls his eyelid down at him. Like that's fucking great stuff.
Yeah.
And then the ending of Universe 2, way too long, but that's what it was going to be.
They left the same way they participated. Way too long.
Yeah. 9 went out exactly as you would think, and I think theirs had the most power, where you're like, fuck. They're gone. Xeno-sama!
Because those were like the big villains of the Zen exhibition match, and so you had a little bit of a connection to them, and then they're gone.
I'd grown to really like Bergamo in particular, because he had a lot more honor than his two brothers.
I liked that Frost tried to interfere with the tournament and got himself erased prematurely.
So since we're talking about the ending and the fact that everybody got brought back by the Super Dragon Balls, except Frost. Frost is still erased because he was erased not during the tournament. He was erased by Zeno.
Oh, he wasn't there at the end? I didn't notice that he wasn't standing there at the end.
But I also had to think about how the wish worked. He couldn't have been, because the way Android 17 voices the wish, he goes, everybody who was erased during the tournament. Technically, he wasn't erased because of the rules of the tournament.
Did he, though? I thought Android 17 just said, please bring back all the universes that were erased. And when I was watching, I was like, wait, does that only cover the tournament, or are we back up to 18 now? Because we found out a long time ago that there were originally 18 universes, and Zeno erased 6 of them when he got mad about them.
I remember him saying over the course of the tournament.
I don't remember that at all.
Hang on, I want to look up real quick. Is Frost still erased? I wonder if there's going to be anything on this.
Is Frost okay?
Nobody wondered. Everybody is asking where is Frost. Nobody's asking how's Frost. Probably poor. Biography. I don't want to know his whole fucking life story. I just want to know is he alive? Yeah, okay, Frost is back. My bad. I thought I didn't see him though. Oh well. I think it would have been cooler had they left him erased. Especially because he wasn't erased in that oh no, Universe 6 is gone. He was erased because he tried to fucking attack Frieza from the stands.
Right, but the dragon probably doesn't know all those details. He's just like, meh, everybody was erased. Meh.
Which is all this dragon does. He doesn't talk at all.
What if we found out that he accidentally brought back the Trunks timeline, and then fucking Zamasu starts bleeding into our universe again?
That's not a universe, though. That's a timeline. They're different. So even if all the other
they are in some vague fashion that's never been fully explained.
So even if the other universes that Zeno erased in the past have been brought back, the other timeline wouldn't have been brought back. Ultimately, because it was 17, I feel like it worked. If it had been Goku, it would have been really typical. It would be all right, well, yeah, of course, he's going to do that.
That's the ending I've been calling forever, and it came to pass, just not with the character I expected.
Right, exactly. Like I said earlier, everybody and his dog expected that would be it. However, because it was 17, I just think that it worked in a way more like emotionally satisfying way than had it been any other character.
Yeah. Well, what did you think of the reveal by the Grand Priest?
Yeah, so alright, I feel like that's the next big thing we should talk about. At the end of the day, I think it's something that it's one of those things that people are gonna like are gonna like debate over whether or not they like this show for years, over whether or not that kills this whole thing. Because I definitely don't think it does, like at all. I absolutely, because I went back and rewatched it knowing that's the ending, and the tension in the beginning is absolutely still there. Like when Beerus is warning Goku not to go to Zeno's, like it still feels very like, don't do this, man. This is a bad idea. And I think that's why.
And there is still that genuine...
that's why it's still genuinely like it's there, because they still had to win. It's not like they could have just done whatever. They still had to win. Things still had to go exactly how they went. Otherwise,
also that very genuine...
Otherwise, God knows what would have happened.
There's also that very genuine moment where they found out what the rules were of the tournament, and Goku has that genuine reaction of like, I think I fucked up.
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
So I think it sucks out any of the tension.
It doesn't suck out any of the tension. It just retroactively... I don't know, there was always something cool about the fact that Zeno was like all bubbly and friendly, but also this huge threat to the very existence of the universe. And the Grand Priest always seemed kind of sinister, and there was always something about the other angels that you didn't trust.
It is kind of sinister still, though.
But now, in retrospect, it's like, oh, they weren't actually gonna leave the universes destroyed.
And I kind of get the sense that we're gonna get a different perspective on all of them as time goes on. But we'll see. But what I do like about it is that he was like, if the person who won the Dragon Balls hadn't have wished for that, he would have erased everything. That's why I think it still works, you know, because he was still testing them in a really backwards way, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, it doesn't totally it doesn't ruin it. It
definitely puts the cushion back under you, which is one of the biggest problems with Super, is they continuously feel the need to do that.
Yeah, I feel like Super. I feel like I'm Lando Calrissian, and Super is Darth Vader, just constantly going, "I have altered the deal. Pray I do not alter it any further."
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, without a doubt. But I feel like that's TV shows in general. You just you get into it with the first episode thinking you're watching it for one thing, and then at the last episode you're like, "What? This is a different thing now."
I think the first time I had a genuine sense of that was when they changed the rules of the Patari rings. That was the first time I remember them doing like a major retcon that was like, this is not the franchise you remember anymore. You know, things are different.
What exactly was it? Because they're not permanent anymore?
Yeah.
Right, but in Super, didn't Supreme Kai and Kibito have to use the Namekian Dragon Balls to get split up again?
Yeah, so see, this is the deal. Because the Patar earrings were originally used were originally created to be used by Kais, and it was never intended for anyone else to use. When Kais use them, they're still permanent. But when a mortal uses them, it only lasts an hour, because it's not designed for
okay,
them.
But that's not what they said back then. That's exactly why it's fucking...
Yeah, well, back in Z, it was just, they're permanent. You will never defuse again. And then they go inside Boo, and they're like, oh, we've defused again.
But given Elder Kai, it kind of works retrospectively. Like, because Elder Kai is such a fucking lying, manipulative ass. He was the MVP commentator of this whole tournament. Beerus is always every line out of Beerus's mouth is like gold for me.
Yeah. Unfortunately, though, we didn't get as much of it as we did like when Beerus was watching them fight Golden Frieza back in Resurrection F, because a lot of this art consisted of Beerus being quiet because he was fucking
scared
terrified.
Shitless, yeah. But I really liked that characterization of him.
I don't know. I prefer my Beerus quippy.
He was still pretty quippy. But definitely not as much. He was definitely scared. But he was also like,
He was
man,
scared.
but he was also
Wasn't
like,
afraid to die.
but he was also really thankful to everybody for like their fucking like role in saving his universe. Like he was like, what's that old man's name? And he was trying to remember Master Roshi's name. Like I thought that was great.
Yeah, I did like that.
Like Beerus has become one of my favorite Dragon Ball characters in general. Over the course of the years that we've had him. Him and Whis are like fucking MVPs to me now.
Yeah, he's been one of my favorites since Battle of Gods. I mean, I fell in love with him instantly.
Mm-hmm. And he's one of those characters where it's like you can kind of put him in any situation and he'll always be interesting.
Champa too. I love Champa.
Yeah, Champa. Yeah, because Champa is like it's like Roseanne and Becky on Roseanne. That's what Champa and Beerus are. You know, Beerus is Roseanne, and then Champa is Becky.
Interesting. In what way?
In that Champa is the less effective but whinier sister, but also the one who causes all the problems that Beerus has to solve.
Oh, you mean Jackie?
Yeah. Oh, did I say Becky?
You said Becky.
Yeah, my fault. I meant to say Jackie.
I was like, how is that relationship in any way?
My fault. I got their names mixed up.
Which is interesting because weight-wise, Beerus is the Jackie.
Yeah, no, you're right. But yeah, no, I think characterization-wise, that's a pretty good comparison. Beerus is definitely Roseanne. Are you kidding me? And Whis is Dan.
I don't know if Beerus would vote. I don't know if Beerus would vote for Trump.
No, Beerus would vote for destroying the entire planet. If he even found out American politics were a thing.
Or that America were a thing.
Let him just know about Japanese food. Like, let's just keep Beerus's knowledge of Earth to Goku and Japanese food. And
if America even is, if America even is a thing in the Dragon Ball version of Earth, where there's one giant continent ruled over by a dog.
Right. That's right. There's a king. I always forget.
And he's a dog. He's a dog.
I kind of wish the dog would have gotten to meet the Galactic King.
I don't know if is there like a parliamentary system, or is he like an old school fucking Game of Thrones fucking
Is he
king
cutting off heads?
Dog. Yeah, that's what I want to know, dog.
So I mean, the last question I want to ask you is that this as we've talked about, this show kind of wrapped up a little prematurely in its last like 10 episodes or so. They definitely make you go, they have a lot to wrap up in 23 minutes.
And the
last episode is insanely condensed. How did you feel about that?
You can really feel them racing to the finish line, especially like, they set up the big twist with Topo turning God of Destruction, and they had to wrap that up in one episode, which was kind of a shame. I was hoping we'd get to at least one episode of him being a badass.
They wrapped that up that quickly.
Yeah. So yeah, it was kind of an issue. It's something that I've run into before. I mean, season 5 of Samurai Jack only had 10 episodes to tell its story in, and as a result, the last episode, the finale, is a little rushed, and that's the criticism of that episode I agree with. Not all of the people who whine because, well, you haven't seen it yet, but believe me, it's annoying the reason people don't like it. Anyway, so it's a problem I've run into before, and it sucks. I wish that they had known ahead of time how much longer they were going to get to go on, or I wish they had just wasted less time on fucking Universe 2 in the middle of the arc.
Yeah.
That way it wouldn't have been a problem.
Mm-hmm.
But Japan gonna be Japan.
Mm-hmm. I still think they did the best with what they had, though. Like, it's still incredible how effective that last episode is at wrapping it all up, given how rushed it is. Because every second of it is like,
It's a very satisfying finale. Yeah. It's a lot like when you
especially since it's not like goodbye forever. It's very much so like we're taking a little break now.
Yeah, and they even make that kind of clear with like
it's very like wink and a nod, like we'll be back in a few months.
It's not like the end of Dragon Ball Z where it's like, we're
No,
fucking done, folks, and you're
no.
sitting at home like,
Well, no,
what? No.
but even Z ended with like, we'll probably be back in a couple of years. Uh, this is like, we'll be back very, very soon. There's a trailer for the next thing out now.
Yeah. We're making a lot of money with this. We're not gonna slow down
We're
this hype
opening a whole
train.
department devoted to this franchise. So
We have a Dragon Ball story group. There's alternate universe manga about Yamcha being the strongest character. Like, this is some crazy shit.
do you want to read my porn? My Goku X fucking One Piece porn.
Can you imagine if they opened with, "Do you want to read my porn?" And you're like, "Is it Dragon Ball related?" Uh, no. I
It
just
can
thought
be.
I'd change some names.
I like that Goku has no idea how to go Ultra Instinct at the end. Because Vegeta's like, I got my fucking... So, Vegeta's new form, just so we're clear on this, it's essentially Super Vegeta, but blue, right?
That's my interpretation of it. I like to call it Super Saiyan Bluer. Because that's basically all it is.
Can we call it Super Saiyan Azul?
No. That's just Super Saiyan Blue in
Super
another
Saiyan
language.
Navy?
You know why? Because there are people in the Spanish speaking countries who are already calling regular Super Saiyan Blue Super Saiyan Azul.
That's true, you're right. Can you imagine? So then they have to start calling Super Saiyan Azul Super Saiyan Blue.
Super Saiyan Azul Dos. Blue 2. I've also referred to it as Blue 2.
Super Blue Vegeta?
Super Blue Dabba Dee Dabba Die Vegeta.
Yeah. Loved that. Because that harkened back to, like, playing Budokai 1 back in the day. And there's just that moment where Vegeta's standing on that cliff and he's like, fuck this, I'm gonna get stronger than Goku. And he just does it.
It's like when you run out of forms and you're like, this isn't even my final shade of this color.
Yeah. But it was also just nice to see, like, Vegeta get to have that push to his limits moment, because he never gets the fucking chance to. He's always killed or taken out of the action, but that doesn't happen to him in this. As much as I think he kind of gets the shaft in terms of focus and getting, like, a really big thing to do, he doesn't get he doesn't get, like, shat on. He definitely, he stays in there and does cool stuff, just not enough for me.
I wonder if Beerus ever achieved Ultra Instinct. I wonder if all his fur on his body would turn white.
That's interesting. I don't know. We'll have to find out. I don't think. I don't think he's done it. I think that's why Beerus is so like, no. I think he's realizing that Goku is gonna surpass him, especially since he's fought Jiren.
It's interesting that the Ultra Instinct hair color is white, because that's the color of all the angels. Is his hair?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think that's kind of maybe intentional.
I would say it probably is.
They're kind of Ultra Instinct all the time. Anyway, D, we definitely got to wrap this up. We're 2.5 hours into this bitch.
Shit.
So, Dragon Ball Super.
This is the end of our long, rambly review of this long rambler.
Our long, rambly series of reviewing this entire show. I had a real kind of feely experience with the ending of this, even though it's not the end of Dragon Ball for a while. But Super itself is like, it is, you know, it's probably going to be done for, like in this format, so it'll definitely be a little different when they bring Dragon Ball back to TV. I kind of want it to be. I don't want them to just do Super again. I'd like them to call it something else and do a different thing.
You think they'll do like Dragon Ball Super : subtitle?
No, I think they'll do Dragon Ball and then put another word at the end. That's
Dragon Ball Super.
Dragon Ball Extreme. Dragon Ball.
That's the dream.
Yeah. Dragon Ball Barbasol.
Kind of hoping that when they come back, they just fucking catch up with the damn time skip already.
I think they'll have to open with Goku training Oob. I feel like that's kind of well, no. What they'll have to do is in the movies, they'll have to connect the gap. That's their first goal. That's the first hurdle they have to climb. Yeah. So they have to get Goten and Trunks to their teenage years. That's what they got to do.
Because if they keep doing more stuff in the time skip, I mean, it's already kind of ridiculous to rewatch the end of Z. I don't know if you've
Yeah,
rewatched the
yeah,
end of Z.
I know, and they're like, "Oh, it's been so many years of peace," and it's like, not really. Yeah.
Yeah, well, not even just that,
You
but
guys remember when the universe was almost erased a few years ago?
not even just that, but the amount of holding back Goku's doing in that fight against Doob is now
It
ridiculous.
is now. Well, but not. But you know what though? I would almost say now it kind of makes more sense, given how he fights, because it almost feels like the way Whis fought him, like initially.
Well, I mean, I always assumed that he was holding back in that fight because he had already beat Kid Buu, who had full mastery of his powers. He's fighting a kid who has those same powers but hasn't mastered them yet, and he's had time to get stronger since then. So I always assumed that he was holding back. I just didn't realize that he was a fucking god fighting a child.
With the powers of like a destroying entity. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
it was wild shit, man. I'm not gonna say that it wasn't.
That's good. You would be wrong.
That would be wrong. Yeah. And I don't, and I don't do that. So
I feel like that should be the blurb for this entire franchise. It's wild shit. I'm not going to say it isn't.
yeah, no, definitely, because you would be wrong. And you know what? Like, that's the best way to sum up this whole thing. Like, if you are a Dragon Ball fan and you haven't watched this already, you're a dumbass. Like, because it is wild, wild shit, and you need to see it.
If you watched it and you didn't like it and you rage quit, I can understand. But
Yeah,
at least,
no, I mean, sure. I mean, there's something to be said for giving it a go and seeing and developing your own opinion. And if you want to leave comments telling us that we're dumb for enjoying it as much as we did, fine. Especially me, man. Like, fuck, I'm still working through my second rewatch. Like, this whole arc is a blast. And for many years to come, this will kind of be like my golden standard for modern Dragon Ball. Of like, well, is it as good as the Tournament of Power? No. All right, let's move on. And yeah, I just think that that's awesome. I'm just so glad that Toriyama gives a fuck again, because for so long he didn't.
yeah. Well, he just got fucking burnt out. He spent the majority of the 80s and 90s slaving over Dragon Ball.
Mm-hmm. And I'm glad that they've really developed it in the way now where he's not going to be doing that anymore.
Right, now he has ideas.
He's a nice overseer. He comes in on a Saturday. He's like, you know what would be nice, guys? Let's do another cat. And they're like, okay, Akira, like, that's cool.
He's like the anti-George Lucas.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
There's a lot of cheating in here. A lot of they fight.
They fight.
Can you imagine if that's what a Dragon Ball script looked like?
Oh
they
my
fight.
god. It ends up a lot better if that's the case than the prequels did, because all the fights in this are like, fuck. Like, just the way they slide around on the rocks.
Akira,
How did you feel about the stage? How did you feel about the way they played with that?
I liked that it was designed like a big spinning top. I thought that was really, unique. It also kind of harkens back to Kami's Lookout in a way.
Mm-hmm. I'm more referring to, how did you feel about it just getting turned into a big wasteland?
Oh, that was fine.
It was kind of inevitable, because they couldn't just keep having it be there are so many fighters on the stage and so many ki blasts being fired that like the background is just a big blur of energy, because there wouldn't be enough fighters after a while. So and eventually they needed something else to fill in the background so you couldn't see the other fighters.
Well, and as the stage got messed up, it actually created a lot of terrain, which made for some interesting like battles and people hiding and sniping and shit, which you couldn't have done on just a large flat surface. Frieza's whole thing near the end where he just hid and Android 17, his big move. Oh, we didn't talk about that. How you think he's dead and then he just comes back.
Oh fuck yeah! Were you one of the people who were disappointed with the fact that they brought him back?
No, I didn't know how to feel about it.
I didn't think he was really dead.
I didn't know. Well, I did, but I didn't know how to feel about it at first when they brought him back. For sure, I thought, oh, I hope that they do this correctly, because this potentially could ruin a really great heroic sacrifice. But they made it work, and I think in retrospect, he's the only character you could really pull that off with, because he's an android and he can hide, and people won't be able to sense that he's still there, and so he can totally just fake his death and then run off somewhere to start gathering his key reserves.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it makes a lot of sense. And
I agree.
I think, but when they first revealed it, hell yeah, I was a little skeptical, because it
I
seemed like,
was I was just really pumped to see him standing next to Frieza, and they were ready
because
to fight together, and that was pretty cool.
it seemed like, oh no, they're doing it again. The Goku Black arc was really good, and they fucked it up in the last episode.
Right. Yeah, they're fucking it up at the last moment. Yeah, but no,
Yeah.
I definitely feel like it didn't feel that way for me, at least. Where when you see Frieza and him standing next to each other, it feels more of like a, oh no, they're not just doing another Goku saves the day by punching the bad guy. They're doing a different thing.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I kind of thought maybe they were going to do like a Broly thing at the end, where like Frieza and 17 had to like send Goku energy, and then he'd like put it into a big punch or something. But no, they didn't do that either, so that was good.
Goku and Frieza had to drag Jiren off the stage. God, that was so badass. And I liked that Goku was a regular Super Saiyan. Like, the imagery of that was nice. Like Frieza and him, and like that standing next to each other, teaming up. Good stuff.
Yeah.
But all right, let's wrap this up, D. So overall, satisfied?
Yeah, for the most part.
I was immensely satisfied. I had a fucking blast.
I think there are some issues with it, as there is with all of Super, but I think it was really strong, and I think the finale, the last episode, was a very satisfying wrap-up for what has been a couple years of crazy Dragon Ball television.
And a couple of crazy years of fun podcasting about it. If anything, I'm going to miss the most, like, these long fucking conversations of rambling about it,
Oh, well, we'll have to review that movie when it happens.
Well, of course, and that's why I'm glad Dragon Ball's not over, because I would miss doing these.
And now that we're used to watching the show dubbed, why not even wait for the dub of the movie? I mean, subbed. You know what I mean?
We'll have to see. No, I'm not going to wait for the dub of the movie. No, we'll just definitely see it whenever it's released, or whenever we can, whenever the International Space Satellite makes it possible.
Indeed.
So speaking of satellites in space and all of that, wrapping up now on Dragon Ball Super, moving on to next week's topic. We're going to be going back to some more traditional DFOS fare. We're going to do a science week next week, and figure out some of the crazy stuff that's been going on. There's been some dinosaur footprints found. Some crazy hoaxes have been going on. All kinds of crazy stuff. So we're going to talk about all that. And lots of other stuff coming up soon. So look out for all that. Until then, I'm Bill Worster, a.k.a. Zazubaar.
I'm Super Jam 64.
Reminding you that you heard it, you can't unhear it, but you can unlock the inner instincts in you. Man,